In the wrestling world, the people are represented by two separate but unequally important groups. The wrestlers and bookers, who literally do all the hard work, and the fans, who endlessly nitpick and overanalyze everything they do. These are their stories.
Hey! It's Warhorse, and you need to shut your mouth, open your eyes, and clean out your ears, because it's time to listen to the Raw and Order podcast. That's right, they're bringing you the best in all that meaty podcasty goodness in one, what is it, an hour? Two? Who cares? Who gives a shit? You need to listen to it right now, or else Warhorse is gonna, I don't know, roll your ass!
I never get tired of that Warhorse intro. Never. Welcome to Raw and Order, the wrestling booking unit, the only wrestling podcast on the planet with that very specific Warhorse intro. The only one with that one. I am your host, Detective Mark Smarks, and I am joined, as always, by one of my partners in crime fighting. This week, it is JLB. What's going on, man? How are you?
Goes good, sir. It goes good. Still can't. I absolutely love that Warhorse intro as well. That's still classic. Still not getting old and tired of it, so that's a good sign. Warhorse is very eccentric, though, so makes sense.
He's the best. He is the best. Follow him on Twitter if you don't already. He is hilarious. But not joining us tonight is DA Vincent Kayfabe. Has a sick child and has to take care of them, and as a father, I know what that's like. So you know, good best wishes to him and his kid for getting better. But we're gonna roll on with this live stream. If you're joining us on the live stream, welcome. Hit us up in the comments with any questions or comments that you have on this. If you're listening to us later, you can still hit us in the comments if you're watching us the replay on YouTube or Facebook. Or if you're just listening to it, you can shoot us a tweet at our names that are up on the screen right now, or you can hit me up on email at rawandorderwbu@gmail.com, or on Facebook, wherever. Pissant Podcast on Facebook. Just go at Pissant Podcast. Get you right there. But yeah, so we're gonna talk about the wrestling crimes in the industry this week. That's kind of what we do, and I use the air quotes crimes on this sometimes because here's the deal: we're fake cops. He's a fake Mountie. He's a fake Mountie. We need to give him that big old Mountie hat. Get him.
That'd be awesome. I feel like we wouldn't have those in Quebec. Perhaps if I go to the West in Calgary or something like that, I'll try to find it. I'll make it my mission. I'm no longer in school, so I have time to waste. Finding a Mountie hat. I'll do my darndest.
Yeah. But I'm playing around with a new location for my microphone, and I don't know if it's going to be my favorite place for it.
Well, we will have to just see.
Will indeed find out here. But the premise of this show, like I say, is fairly simple. We talk about the crimes in the wrestling world of today and in the past. And by crimes, I mean anything we either did like or didn't like.
Yep, pretty much.
It's really wide open on everything there. You know, we talk about the product, we challenge them to get better, or sometimes praise the things that they are doing well. So so before we get into doing all that, though, I always like to take this moment to remind people that Raw and Order is part of the Tatnus Co. podcast network. So if you haven't already, link is in the doobly-doos down below for tatnusco.com. You can head on over there and see the other shows in the network. And let us know what ones you liked and what ones you didn't, and let them know that we sent you.
Yeah,
there's also all sorts of stuff in that doobly-doo as well, including links to our merch store where you can get a Sweet At's t-shirt or hat or anything like that. Our Patreon, if you want us to support us that way, and all of our socials and all of that stuff in there as well. So But yeah, we'll go ahead and get into the wrestling crimes. I always open up the floor to one of my co-hosts to see if they want to go first before uh you know.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll do it, but I'll just open it right on the big topic at hand, the one that kind of made headlines since SmackDown ended. And my crime is ultimately, from what we know, at least, because there's three sides to every story, of course. Seems like the dirt sheets have been getting a lot of different sides, all saying the same thing. But my crime is, for now, going to be going to Charlotte Flair for not checking your ego at the door. Um, so, for those of you who've lived under a rock, chose randomly not to watch SmackDown or whatever have you, essentially, there was a title exchange that happened on SmackDown. It didn't go to plan. Charlotte Flair at one point ended up throwing the belt on the floor, which apparently wasn't a part of the schedule, not the scheduling, but part of the plan to do so. And it just things got a little aggressive. Becky Lynch then shoved her title or pushed or threw her title at Charlotte Flair, which wasn't necessarily supposed to happen in that way. And that's all we saw. But boy, did we get a newsreel the next day. We heard of there being heat backstage. Charlotte being very angry before SmackDown of her not wanting to look weak and her not wanting to essentially do what was supposed to be planned for the title exchange. And thus, there being an altercation between Becky and Flair backstage. Nothing physical, just apparently a lot of yelling, which ended up having Charlotte Flair escorted out of the building. And also, a bunch of rumors are still happening in terms of apparently everyone is on Becky's side. She's quote unquote the hero of the story for standing up for herself. And Charlotte Flair is apparently going through some things. There's a lot of people who don't necessarily want to work with her, and or she has been also isolating herself from the rest of the locker room, leading a lot of people to believe what is in fact going on with Charlotte Flair. So based off all of this news, I don't know if it's an ego thing. I don't know if she is going through something mentally. I don't know, right? I'm not in that locker room. I'm not a psychologist either. But for now, from the stuff that we do know, I will have to present a charge to Charlotte Flair for simply not being a team player at this point in time. Of just a simple title exchange. I think it was over exaggerated, perhaps, of what she was thinking of how she would look weak. It's a title exchange, it's not even a matchup. Okay. So, whether I don't know how it was supposed to be planned, but even if you just legitimately handed her the title and Becky handed you the title, all you really could have done was talk a little trash, blah, 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 blah. Maybe you come to blows and Bianca Belair comes in. At the end of the day, I don't know how this would have made Charlotte weak. So I don't know if she's just in her own head and everybody she thinks she maybe she's not playing a role on screen. Maybe this character that we see Charlotte play every week isn't a role and she's embodied that queen image for herself, and maybe this is now no longer a character but Charlotte Flair the human being. I don't know, and I don't want to judge because listen, at the end of the day, I'm reading the dirt sheets like any Joe Blow is reading the dirt sheets, right? But at this point in time, I'm going to have to give a charge to Charlotte Flair for just not being a team player, not doing what's right for business, not necessarily what's right for Charlotte, but what's right for business.
Okay.
And I digress.
Yep. No, I don't entirely disagree with you on this. Obviously there's parts of the story that we don't know. However, the reports that I've read do state a little bit about it. This actually goes back to a while ago. Becky and Charlotte apparently don't get along very well.
Right.
At all. Going back to promos from like 2 years ago where
Oh wow. Okay.
Becky was defending her world title at the time, and Charlotte had to take some time off, and Becky put out a tweet of something like, you know, I defended my title with a broken nose and all of this stuff, and you had to take some time off to get something done. You know what I mean? Implying breast implants or nose job or whatever it was, right? And there also was apparently, I don't know if it was in a promo or in a tweet, but Becky using the phrase plastic about Charlotte. And so Charlotte took some of those things personally. However, again, like you said, this is a business. And as a business, you need to be a professional. The other thing, though, that I will point out on this is in the grand scheme of things, this is important to remember that WWE booked themselves into this problem.
For sure. And I don't even know why this was advertised.
Well, it didn't need to be advertised. It didn't need to be a big production. Like, remember last year when the draft happened and Street Profits were the champions for Raw and New Day were the champions for SmackDown, and they just had a little segment backstage where like, hey, you want our belts? We'll take your belts. Cool.
Yeah, but they're both face. That's the difference.
Well, they are both.
Did anyone do that in heel? When they were heel? I don't think so.
No, but this was the first. I mean, that was the first time that exchange had happened like that, and this is the second time. So, but I'm saying that there's a way
to do.
What not to do for next time. But the other thing that has come out, though, and again, this is why I still put a lot of the blame on WWE. Charlotte's not blameless in this, but I do put some of the blame on WWE because Charlotte, word has come out, Charlotte lobbied very heavily for Bianca Belair to win the title from her on Raw last week. She wanted Bianca to win the title off of her so that then they didn't have to do this title exchange thing.
You think just to kind of avoid doing anything with Becky?
Maybe it was about that, but reports have it that she's also really, really sold on Bianca Belair. She thinks Bianca Belair is championship material and needs to be. And then the exchange, there wouldn't have been an exchange. It would have probably had to have been a Becky vacates the title situation because there wouldn't be the Raw title coming over. And so maybe like I said, I can't rule that out. But in the end, this all still comes down to this. If it's true that Becky and Charlotte haven't gotten along for years, which I remember hearing that rumor a year ago, before Becky had left for her pregnancy. And so if this has been known for so long, WWE should have known that this handoff was not going to go smoothly, likely, and just book it differently. I mean, in the end, they're in charge of the booking. So you just don't book a handoff. And I guess that's the real lesson that I think we learned from this is that handoffs don't really work.
Stupid.
Right? They're stupid in multiple ways.
Contract signings are stupid, but I get why you do it to legitimize your title, whatever.
But in the end, they could have easily had it be, you know, Charlotte loses the title to Becky.
You mean Belair?
Belair, yeah. But then Becky coming over to Raw does another cheap heel tactic thing to beat Belair again and get the title on Raw and vacates the SmackDown title. And then Charlotte goes up against someone on SmackDown and wins. I mean, like I said, I'm on the fly fantasy booking this because the simple fact is there's a way they could have booked this and not had any of this shit happen. You know what I mean?
Right.
And
it's true of what
if it's
2
true
years
that
ago they
that
had
it's
heat and whatever.
been so long,
Because that
and
plastic
Parsons-
thing on Twitter could have just been heel work.
Well, it could have been, but here's the deal: it's really easy for heel work to get personal, right?
That's true. That's
and
fair.
if Becky said it in heel work and Charlotte took it personally, then it easily could be Charlotte still holding on to that grudge. Here's what I want to point out, and I want to bring this out here, though, for all of our listeners and all of the people in the internet wrestling community to take a stop, take a deep breath. Charlotte's not showing up on AEW anytime soon, right?
Yeah, she has like a few years in her contract.
Yeah, she's got like 2 years left at least on her contract. That's a lot of time for things to
all blow over. And look, at the end of the day, if they do decide not to use her for a while, and I mean that whole treatment for her plastic thing, I imagine that would even count more towards, hey, this is going to be time overlaps onto
we'll add it on to the end. They've done it before, so. But that's my point. Is she's not the only way she shows up on AEW is if WWE lets her out of her contract early, and they're not going to do it.
Why would you do that?
Not for her. They'll let fucking Tony Nese out of his contract because who gives a fuck about Tony Nese, right? Now, and that's me not trying to knock on Tony Nese, who's the air quotes hottest free agent in AEW.
It's a bit of a knock.
The hottest free agent in wrestling, according to AEW. I like Tony Nese. He apparently wrestled in the dark tapings.
Oh snap!
Today.
Really?
Yep.
But that's coming out.
Yeah, Tuesday. It'll come out Tuesday or I don't know if it was the dark or the elevation. Whatever. So it might be Monday or Tuesday. I think it's the Tuesday one. Apparently. Here's the deal. Did we not know that he was probably going to be wrestling in AEW at some point soon? Because they kept pointing him out on Dynamite the other day. They kept saying, look, Tony Nese is in the audience. Look, there's Tony Nese in the audience, the hottest free agent in wrestling right now.
Right.
Okay. Is he really the hottest free agent in wrestling right now?
Not right now.
No.
Not right now. No. I mean, you have Buddy Matthews. He's better. Buddy Matthews is better though. So
I would say Buddy Matthews.
Bray. We can't say Bray yet.
Can't say Bray. Bray's not technically a free agent yet. But Braun is.
Nope. Tony Nese is better. Don't you dare. Don't. No, I disagree.
No.
Who didn't come out to Bound for Glory?
No, he didn't. Apparently, there were there's some things from Bound for Glory that we will talk about a little bit later. But apparently, like the reports were he's going to debut for Impact soon, and then as an addendum, they said possibly even at Bound for Glory. I think that was just the dirt sheets hedging their bets, saying if we say possibly even, then he doesn't show up. We didn't technically lie,
right?
Because we said he could show up, and then he didn't. Anyways, so anyways, Braun or Titan apparently is what he's going to wrestle under now.
Titan,
yeah, which I think I'm going to give him a little bit of credit for it because Titan Entertainment is actually the official name of WWE's corporation, Titan Sports Entertainment.
Oh, snap. Okay.
So choosing Titan as his name, his wrestling name, is kind of a little dig, and I get it. I'm here for that. Anyways, but he didn't show up. There were some fun shenanigans at Bound for Glory. I didn't watch it all. I've watched some highlights of it and everything, but anyways, so Braun is still technically a free agent as of right now because he hasn't debuted. Buddy Matthews is still technically a free agent, even though it's been announced that he's going to appear on New Japan Strong. He isn't under a long-term contract with them, as far as we know. Right. So he's still teasing. He is trolling every day. Because he tweeted something the other day. This was like Friday night, and he said, it's been a rough day, but I am bound and determined to continue seeking glory. Something like that. And I was like, trolling still. Anyways, But again, like I said, is Charlotte definitely bears the brunt of this, and I don't disagree there. But WWE booked themselves into this corner, and the lesson they need to learn is don't do that. There are lots of ways they could have booked this to happen without this handoff, and that put it back. But again, Charlotte tweeted out a picture today with her and Andrade working out in a Planet Fitness, and they're both wearing AEW hats. And of course, the internet wrestling community exploded. Oh, it's for certain now. I'm like, no, WWE is not letting Charlotte out of their contract. WWE will force her to sit at home for the remainder of her contract instead of let her out right now. Period. Right. That's again, if Mustafa Ali said, I want out of my contract, WWE might let him out of their contract because they don't see the huge upside in him. The only reason they see some upside with him is because he's got that I can't remember what country his heritage is.
I don't.
But anyways, he's Muslim. I can look it up here, and so he's got that kind of draw. It's the same thing with Mansoor, right? They're going to keep Mansoor.
He's Saudi Arabian
because he's from Saudi Arabia, and so they trot him out every time they go to Saudi Arabia. He's undefeated in Saudi Arabia. In fact, fun fact here, that is the only major streak left alive in WWE. Is the Mansoor undefeated in Saudi Arabia streak.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. So, but if Mustafa Ali said, I want out of my contract, or heck, even if Karrion Kross said, I want out of my contract, WWE might let him out, just because they're like, well, we're not really using you very well. We don't see as big of an upside to you as apparently everyone else does, whatever. But Charlotte's not getting let out of her contract anytime soon, period. So she's gonna either sit at home or wrestle for WWE. She's gonna fan the flames for a while, and then she's gonna go back to work, and everything's gonna be normal again for them.
And look, going back to the part where you're like, I'm sorry, I just forgot. Okay, there you go. Going back to the part where you had mentioned you had read a dirt sheet in regards to her wanting to drop the title to Belair on Raw. Thus, I don't honestly think that might have been a legitimate report, just because of what happened based on SmackDown. With Belair, this made Belair look. Or Banks. It was Banks?
It was Banks that came out.
It was Banks that came
out.
Oh, okay,
Belair didn't show up. And
invalid.
So
invalid.
This would have been,
Okay.
But again, like I said, I put a ton of blame on Charlotte. I'm 100% down with you on this. I'm just saying that there also needs to be a hefty chunk of that put at the feet of WWE booking. Because,
well, I mean, at the same time, but again, yes and no. Because at the same time, even if I have an issue with someone at work and I have to work with them, I'm not going to be a grumpy little bitch and not do my work. No offense to anyone. I'm not calling anyone a bitch. I'm just calling me a grumpy little bitch. I'm not going to be a grumpy little bitch about, I'm going to do it and then be gone. And then, guys, I would appreciate it if I didn't have to work with this individual anymore, if at all possible.
See, and I'm going to go into this with a little experience of I've had to work with someone for a long period of time that I did not get along with at all.
Right.
And I get along with almost everybody. But there was one person that I just couldn't fucking stand. I just could not stand him at all. And I had to continue working with him. But here's the deal is, after a while, there gets to be this little one-upsmanship that goes on where the one side does something just to needle the other side. And then the other side does something just to needle the one guy again. Right. And that's really all this was. I mean, let's strip this down to the basics here. What did Charlotte do? Because script wise, the only thing she did off script was threw the title down instead of handing it to Becky. That's it, right? Everything else on that segment went according to script from Charlotte's side. Now, Becky retaliated and tossed the belt at Charlotte, right? So that shows that there was retaliation on both sides, right? And then backstage, the attitudes went all off and everything. But in terms of the actual segment, the only thing Charlotte did that was off script, as far as everything reporting, was instead of
We don't have
handing
the
the
script
belt
or anything, do we?
no, but all of the reports,
script.
all of the reports say that she was supposed to hand the belt to Becky, and instead of handing it, she held it up in the air and she tossed it at Becky's feet, right? Instead
She
of
didn't
handing it,
toss it at Becky's feet. She tossed it to her back.
Whatever, on the ground. Anyways, my point is,
back of her. It wasn't at Becky. You don't watch SmackDown,
okay,
sir.
I don't watch SmackDown. I agree, but in the end, again, my point still being, all she did that was off script was instead of handing it, she dropped it. And as someone who had a coworker, it doesn't matter.
Back of her. That's retaliation,
still,
though.
Again, it still doesn't matter, because I'm still pointing out is all she did was this one minor thing off script, and everything else in that segment. In fact, she was the one who got the segment back on track to lead to Sasha Banks's entrance, right? She was the one who grabbed the mic and set up Sasha's, because I did watch this part, right? To set up Sasha's entrance, right? And that's entirely her putting it back on script after it got off script. But in the end, I can tell you for a fact that a coworker of mine would do little things to try to sabotage me. And so you say as a worker, you just do your job and all of this stuff. But after a certain amount of time, there becomes this little, I'm going to try to sabotage that person. And then that person might try to sabotage back. And you can try to be above it all you want. But eventually you can feel like you've been. Now, I am not giving Charlotte any sort of free pass. I want to be honest. I want to be. I'm just saying that there is more than one blame to this. Because here's the deal.
Absolutely. Okay.
Here's the deal with my situation. My bosses knew that I didn't get along with this person. I went to them and said, I don't get along with this person. Can you put me in a different location so I don't have to deal with them? And my bosses said, you just need to learn to be professional and all of this stuff. And things continued to get worse. And that's what happened here. It's, if the truth is that they haven't gotten along for a long time, then WWE needs to know. Management needs to know, hey, let's limit their interactions as much as we can, because we know that they don't get along and they're going to try to do things to make the other person look bad, right? So that's why I say WWE booking needs a helping of the blame on them, because they booked themselves into this knowing full well that Becky and Charlotte did not get along. Charlotte is not blameless in this. Charlotte deserves a huge heap of the blame on this, because like you said, she should have been professional and just done the job, right?
All right.
I fully agree with that. I'm just saying that depending on with all the reports going backstage that this has been going on for years, there's a point where, a little bit of frustration comes. And that's all it really was she had a little bit of frustration. And so instead of handing it to her, she went off script and threw it on the ground. Right. And then Becky retaliated and threw the belt at Charlotte instead of handing it to Charlotte. So in this case, Becky deserves a little bit of the blame too.
For not being professional. Yeah.
For not being professional back too. It's an old rule in football, right? In professional football, the person who retaliates almost always gets the foul, right? A wide receiver and a cornerback can be out there and they could be pushing each other all they want, but it's when the wide receiver turns around and decks the cornerback, suddenly the wide receiver gets ejected. Doesn't matter what the cornerback was doing all game, because you're the one who retaliated. You get the blame, and this is where some of the blame needs to go on Becky as well, right? And this isn't even talking about the needling backstage and the not getting along backstage and all that. Now, here's what it comes down to. Here's another thing that it plays into with my experience here, talking about not getting along with a coworker. WWE management really should have been sorting this out a long time ago. If two of their top stars do not get along, WWE management needs to figure out how to get them to get along, or put in place a plan to make sure that they don't have to interact. And that's where they failed, right? I mean, here's the deal. They've kept them on opposite brands for a long time now. So just keep them, if you know they don't get along, keep them on opposite brands. Make sure they don't have to interact as often as possible, and do that. I think that there really needs to be a sit-down session between them and a mediator, right?
Yeah.
That this is where a professional atmosphere needs to be established, a mediator in between them with actual mediation skills. And okay, Becky, okay, Charlotte, let's talk about what's going on. And you need to figure out how you can keep these people working professionally together, because when it gets to this sort of a point, it's at a boiling point, right?
Right.
But so again, I agree with you. Charlotte deserves this charge and deserves it. I'm just saying that there's plenty of this charge to go around. That WWE deserves some because they booked this thing, and WWE deserves a charge just for booking a stupid handoff in the first place, because it's fucking dumb, right?
Yeah,
there's no other sport in the world that the champions just hand the belts to each other for whatever reason, or the Super Bowl doesn't go on, and the winner of last year's Super Bowl doesn't come out and hand the trophy to the new winner, right? It doesn't work that way.
Right.
There's no switch off. The AFC champion and the NFC champion don't meet and hand each other titles or anything. It doesn't happen. You don't ever see a boxing champion hand the belt to another champion without having lost a match.
Right.
You lose a fight, you might hand the belt to the other person. I get that. That's a respect thing.
Right.
But in no other situation does this happen, period. So why book it to happen here? It's ludicrous in the first place. It makes no fucking sense from a storyline standpoint. So they deserve a charge for that. But in terms of the unprofessional charge, like I say, we take this 10-pound bag of blame and we put 9.7 pounds of it at Charlotte's feet, and then we take that other 0.3 pounds and we sprinkle a bunch of it at WWE's feet, and a bunch of it at Becky's feet, and a bunch of it at Creative's feet, and a bunch of it just at everyone's feet. Throw some up in the air, because I think a lot of people can have at least a little bit of that. But
well, yeah, and I mean, the fact that apparently Vince is angry that she didn't go see Vince, on top of that as well. Because she was at gorilla position and then she just bounced. I mean, I don't get why that was necessarily such a big thing. It's your last segment. You can just run after her.
It's for that. It's entirely based on tradition. The tradition is, once you get done with your segment, you check in with gorilla position. You seek feedback. How did that go? How can, I mean, it's the tradition of trying to improve. How did that go? Do you have any feedback to tell me, for next time, if I have to do something like that again? It's kind of like, there are a lot of jobs where when you're done with your job or done with your assigned task, you have to check in with the boss and say, okay, I'm done with my assigned task. Can I go home? And then the supervisor will say, okay, yeah, you can go. And that's really what it came down to, is that she left without checking in with the boss. And again, especially with this, like if the segment had gone perfect and she stormed out and didn't stop at gorilla position, I don't think Vince would have been mad because the
Right.
segment went fine, but the segment didn't go fine. Vince had feedback, and she, knowing full well that Vince had feedback,
She just didn't want to hear it.
and didn't want to hear it. Exactly. She bounced through. And that's why Vince was angry.
Right.
Is that he had feedback. He was gonna probably was gonna say, "What the fuck was that, Charlotte?" And she just bounced through. And that's what make if there's one thing that makes a boss even angrier, it's you not giving them the chance to be the boss. Right?
Right.
He had a goal, he had a plan. He probably had already thought of all the stuff he was gonna say to her when she got back there. And then she just bounced through, and that just made him even angry. And then he stews in it all weekend. And then he sees her post pictures with an AEW hat on, and he's going to stew in it even more.
Yeah.
She's not making her life easier in the long run. We'll say that.
Definitely
She's gonna show up for the next segment that she's assigned to, which will be likely SmackDown this week. Although,
maybe not.
She might not be. I mean, they might let her sit at home for a week to cool off. They've also got some super shows that she might have been scheduled for, but again, they might just say, "Listen, cool your jets, man. Sit at home for a while."
Yeah. That's it. And look, I also would like to mention it's also at the same time no excuse. I would like to mention I understand, perhaps the pressure Charlotte has maybe put on herself, or maybe the company has put on her the last year and a half, 2 years. Maybe that is getting to her. Again, it's no excuse. But if it is, Charlotte, you got to talk to someone. I mean, Becky just came from freaking Saudi Arabia, though. And her maybe losing a temper with you might have been a bit understandable. I don't think the girl got sleep.
Yeah.
I
mean, if she's a seasoned traveler like they are, she probably slept on the plane. But again, sleeping on the plane is not as restful as sleeping in real life. I get it. Right. I mean, unless some of these planes flying from Saudi Arabia and everything, they have full on beds in them, but it's still, you're in a plane that jiggles around and all of this stuff, and you're not in a room. Even when you have a bed, it's not really a full room. It's just a little enclosure, a cubicle sort of thing. Anyways, that's neither here nor there.
Right.
In the end,
I'm just trying to look at it at all sides. You know what I mean? I'm just trying to. I don't want to.
The thing that I will put into this is there's a song that I'm a big fan of, and it's a really old song. It's a song that goes back to when my parents were early married.
Oh wow.
And it's by a singer named Roger Miller. Long story short, I'm just gonna skip through a few things. Without Roger Miller, I probably wouldn't be here because my parents met while standing in line to get tickets to a Roger Miller concert. So that's how Roger Miller. But he's got a song about husbands and wives, and one of the lines in it, I think, is fitting towards this sort of a situation. And it's my belief pride is the chief cause in the decline in the number of husbands and wives. Basically saying that pride is what causes most arguments and most relationships to fall apart.
Absolutely.
And this is an example of that, because again, one of the things that it comes into this is this repeating refrain. Charlotte didn't want to look weak. Why? What does it matter if you look weak in one handoff segment, right? What does it matter if you look weak at all? You're supposed to be the heel. Supposed to be the heel. I mean, Becky 100% at least understands that as the heel, she can look weak as long as she looks weak and cheats to win. You know what I mean? So why does Charlotte always have to look so strong? That's a pride thing. That's not And that's something she didn't learn from her dad. Her dad had no problem looking weak, right? In fact, looking weak was half of Ric Flair's act,
Career.
right?
Yeah.
His act on the thing, he'd come out and be a cocky son of a bitch, and then in the match, he would look weak, he'd bleed like a stuck pig, they'd throw him into the corner and do that little flip thing over the top, and then they'd clothesline him, and he'd fall to the ground,
Right.
you know? And you'd think, how was he going to win? And then somehow or another, he'd pull out the victory, usually by the figure four. Oh, I forgot. One of the biggest things that Ric Flair always did to make him look weak, the flying nothing. Almost every match, he would go to the corner. He'd climb up to the top turnbuckle like he's going to jump off and do something. And almost every time, the opponent would get up and come over there and grab him and throw him onto his ass. And he did that all the time. Like, I don't know if he ever landed that as an actual attack, because they always caught him and threw him onto his ass, because he knew he can look weak as long as he wins by heel tactics, right?
Right.
And that's where I think Charlotte's pride gets in the way.
Where did she learn this from, though?
I don't. Here's the thing with pride. Pride can supersede all learned behavior, right?
Right.
Pride can make you do things that aren't the way you learned to do them because you're proud. And I think that's part of the problem here, is that she got to be so proud that she's the queen, and she's, you know, she started to buy into her own hype, right? She gets hyped up in every show as the best women's wrestler on the planet. And so she buys into it. And now in her head, she's the best women's wrestler on the planet. And, well, I can't look weak as the best women's wrestler on the planet. Your dad is literally considered the GOAT by a lot of people. And he looked weak all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Because, you know, why?
That's why and you've grown up with Becky. As much as you hate her, there's definitely something there. There's something, she let something succumb to her to give her this inflated ego, this unbountable pride that she doesn't want to let go of. But, like, I don't know, man. You see these people every week. I see these WWE documentaries. Everyone's so friendly to each other, and and all this and all that. And then I hear this Charlotte isolates herself in the locker room. I don't know if that's necessarily true or not, but I mean, if she's had this ego trip for quite some time, it very well could be. You know, who wants to deal with an egomaniac that isn't Vince McMahon, because he pays your checks.
Yeah,
bills.
the thing that I will always say is I do not believe that WWE's locker room has been as friendly to each other as they like to play it off as. Just because we've already, in this age of Dark Side of the Ring, we've heard enough of the stories that have come out about things that have happened backstage in WWE, and how many of them have to do with the old school wrestlers, the old guard, forcing the old guard ways on, things like Undertaker, hazing new recruits, things like The Miz getting kicked out of the locker room because he didn't follow the rules well enough, and so he had to change his clothes in the regular public restroom where the audience was using and everything. I mean, these are all old school things that create a toxic work environment, and these are things that I don't hear stories like this coming out of other promotions. We don't hear stories like this coming out of Impact Wrestling. We don't hear stories of this coming out of AEW, right?
Right.
And I think a lot of it has to do with old guard wrestling versus new guard wrestling, and some of it has to do with I'll say transparency. I'll use that phrase, right? There's a lot of transparency in AEW. I'll use them as an example. People like to call me an AEW mark. Sure, fine. I'm an
Yeah,
AEW
I
mark,
mean,
right?
you
If
are.
the shoe fits, right?
The shoe
But
fits very well.
yeah, but here's the deal, right? How do I know that, or how do I feel like I know that AEW gets along better backstage? There's fucking footage of it, right? Ethan Page puts out a weekly vlog. Sammy Guevara puts out a weekly vlog. The Bunny
Right.
puts out a weekly vlog. Evil Uno puts out a weekly vlog. Thunder
Wow, you got to get me
Rosa
all
puts
the.
out a
You got to link me to all these weekly blogs.
weekly
Jesus.
vlogs. She
That's
just
crazy.
came back. She was off for a while. Who else does a weekly vlog? There's more.
There's a
Right.
bunch. Yeah.
Fucking BTE does a weekly vlog.
Right.
Although theirs has some sketches and all of this stuff. I'm not saying there aren't some people who don't get along. I mean, reports have it that the elite, as in Cody Rhodes, the Young Bucks, and
Omega.
Kenny Omega don't all get along as well anymore. And by process of elimination, because the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega are currently as a team and hanging out a lot and appearing, we know that the split really comes with Cody Rhodes and the rest of them. We know that
Right.
that there's something going on there. And they're not getting along as good as they used to. But there also is no reports that they're not getting along. They're just not best friends anymore. They moved in different directions. And I think all of us have memories of a friendship that isn't as close as it used to be.
Right, for sure. It's high school days, got
Yep.
along with a bunch of people, your best friends, your ride or dies, grow up, you lose them during college. I'm sorry, I'm moving. You lose them during college, and then you never see them again. It happens.
Or college friends who you get your ride or die, your college roommates or fraternity brothers or whatever. And then you grow up and you get married.
Is
and
this
they
enough
get
light?
married.
No, it's not. Left light, you think? Hold on. Jesus. No.
It's not too bad, whatever.
Too bad.
But so it happens. And so I mean, we know that there are some people who aren't getting along as well, but it doesn't look like they've moved to enemies. It just looks like they've moved on with their lives, right? They're just going in different directions and everything's whatever hunky dory.
I'm still here. I'm just off camera.
Yep. And so we know that happens sometimes.
For sure.
But WWE, we don't have that transparency on it because they don't allow these backstage vlogs. They don't allow their people to do this. Their talent to have the vlogs or the Twitch channels. I mean, it's really hard to hide that you don't get along with someone when you've got 4-hour Twitch streams 3 nights a week. Like an Adam Cole does or Malachi Black does because he took over his wife's when she went back.
Oh, snap. Oh, so he's using like her username?
Yeah, it's just her channel. He's just running it now, apparently. But in the end, like I said, or these vlogs, and yes, I mean they're edited. I get it. We're not seeing the full thing, but in the end, what we see on this is Ethan Page backstage, and he's hanging out with the people that he's supposed to be enemies with on screen, but he's laughing and he's having fun and all of this stuff. Then we see Sammy and his crew, and they're laughing and having fun. And both of them have bunnies show up on their vlogs, or Evil Uno show up on their vlogs, and it just goes, it's this big circle where we know that so many of them get along. And Aubrey Edwards shows up on all of them, and everyone seems to love her. And so we've got this transparency that we don't get with WWE because WWE has been so old school concerned with protecting the business and all of this stuff that I think it creates kind of a toxic environment at times because of this, this whole secretiveness.
But I mean, it's not necessarily that secretive, right? Dirt sheets get it.
The dirt sheets get some of it out, but I'm sure there's a lot of it that takes forever to come. I mean, that's why so much nasty shit came out in the Dark Side of the Ring, plane ride from hell episode.
Right.
so much nasty shit came out in the Chris Canyon episode. You know, the story of Ric Flair calling into the interview, the radio show where Canyon was on, and telling him he'd never be a top guy anywhere. All this stuff. Ric Flair has on statement said, I was being a company guy. I was told that you're not with the company. I need to make you look bad. And that's what I did. Right. And this is kind of a toxic environment in some ways. And you just look at the people who were in that environment and then leave to go elsewhere. And you look at how much happier they look elsewhere, right? Ruby Soho. She's beaming every time you see her on AEW, even when she loses, or gets beat up in the ring and takes a brass knucks to the face,
Right.
She was on the Ethan Page vlog this week, just having a ball, right? And she's a new kid on the block. She's new on this, and everyone enjoys their job in the first couple weeks before, I get it, right? But it's just this thing, like they all seem to get along, and I think a lot of it goes back to because Tony Khan is not an old school wrestling booker. He doesn't feel so tied to these old school wrestling, booker things, right? He doesn't run the locker room in the old school way, where
he treats them like adults, like
treats them like adults, and says, hey, listen, we need to work stuff out. If we're not getting along, then let's figure things out. And so anyways, and so I think WWE kind of breeds some of this, but in the end of the day, there's a lot of this blame to go around. We'll sprinkle it heavily on everyone, but the lump sum of that still goes on Charlotte's, right. So we'll go ahead and move on from that crime that we spent almost an hour talking about.
Wow.
And move on to my crime, which we might spend another hour talking about. Please, God no. But so my crime is going to be interesting because I just spent some time extolling the virtues of AEW. And this is going to be one of those mixed bag ones because it is against AEW. And there are parts of it that are positive and parts of it that are negative, and parts of it that are wait and see itive. Because we don't know yet on it. But so and part of it is on WWE, right? We'll start off with the WWE since we're already talking about this. WWE recently at the finale of Crown Jewel had the finale of their Queen's Crown tournament, right?
Still shocked. Zelina Vega, first queen.
Yeah,
given and Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, did we really think they were gonna have Doudrop win? That Vince McMahon was gonna have Doudrop be his premier?
I did, not in Saudi Arabia, but I thought if it was anywhere else, he likes Vince likes his bigger women though. In that regard, you know what I mean. She can then turn heel. That would be a way for Tane turn her heel. She would then become a monster. The next Nia Jax first.
He likes his bigger women. Let's examine that a bit. How many times was China women's champion? The answer is women's champion. I don't believe she was ever women's. She was European champion. Maybe she was women's champion. But
definitely, the Diva. Do you count the Divas Championship?
I don't know. Well, we're gonna move on though. We're gonna say how many times has Nia Jax been women's champion?
Never.
Never.
Yeah. That's right.
Okay.
Not once.
How many times was Karma women's champion? That's kind of unfair because she wasn't really around for very long, but I'm going to just skip to it and say 0 times. Vince likes having...
But she was Impact in AEW.
She was Impact, yeah. But that's Vince likes having the big women around to be the powerhouses, but he doesn't like pushing them. They're the big muscle that comes out and does big things but never wins the belts, right? And so that's why I really didn't expect Doudrop to win this, because in the end, in Vince McMahon's mind, the women's championship is still a pretty person's championship. And Vince doesn't see. And I'm not saying Doudrop isn't pretty. I'm not saying Nia Jax isn't pretty. In fact, Nia Jax can be absolutely stunning at times. Right. And Doudrop is very pretty. But they're both also larger women. And Vince sees that as something to be used but not promoted, right? So I knew as soon as Doudrop was in the finals that Zelina was going to win. So I wasn't shocked at that. But and there was a report that came out that sort of explained some of this, but my crime for WWE in this is going to be multi-crimes in this, so we'll get in. My crime to WWE in this is, we talked about it on the previous one, or a previous one. The only match in the entire tournament that went over 3 minutes was the finals match. And it went 5 minutes and 50 seconds.
Right.
The total time for all of the entirety of the Queen's Crown tournament, that means 2 first round matches for each brand, so 4 total, right? 2 semifinals putting us at 6, and then a finals putting us at 7. 7 matches was 19 minutes and 24 seconds.
Wow.
Right.
That's low.
19 minutes and 24 seconds for 7 matches, right? I'm trying to find, I want to say the average for it was, 19 divided by 7. I don't know, like 3 minutes and 3.5 minutes, something like that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I could do the math, but I don't really want to, right? But so the crime, the reason it's funny, I say I could do the math, but I don't really want, it's because I've done other math in this, right?
Okay.
That's worth talking. The men's side of the King of the Ring tournament, right? Which you can debate back and forth. Did the men's side have more talent? I mean, maybe. If only because on the women's side, there wasn't Charlotte
There's no
Flair,
Bailey, there's no Asuka,
Bailey,
there's no Charlotte, there's no
there was
Becky.
Becky. There was no Sasha Banks.
There's no one from NXT.
Yeah, they didn't bring up any of the NXT people. They didn't even use Shotzi or Tegan Nox in it, who are on the main roster, right? And instead we got Dana Brooke and Natalya, who really, let's be honest, I wouldn't have put them in my Queen's Crown tournament, right?
Right.
I may have put Zelina Vega in it. I would have probably put Toni Storm in it. I would have probably put Liv Morgan in it. Carmella, I can see why. I don't know if she would have been in it. Shayna would have been in it, but there would have been other people. We've talked before, WWE has probably the most stacked women's roster in the wrestling business, right? As a whole. Right. And yet a lot of them weren't used in this, right? But the entirety of the men's side, right? So the same number of matches, 7 matches, 2 first round per brand, a semifinal per brand, and then the final. The total for those 7 matches, 69 minutes and 55 seconds.
Wow.
So, for the record, that means they could have done 3 full Queen's Crown tournaments in the same amount of time and still had about 7.5 minutes left over to sit around, right? And that's just ludicrous. When you're pitching this to be, the first time ever women's King of the Ring sort of tournament, and we're all about, promoting the women, and we started the women's revolution, and yada 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 yada, right? To then do this. Now, the report has come out that the reason they kept the preliminary rounds short was because the final was going to be short in Saudi Arabia, and they didn't want any of the preliminary matches to be longer than the final. And I get that. But why the fuck was this final supposed to be so short? That's a booking decision that you had to make. Was that a Saudi Arabia thing where the king of Saudi Arabia said no, you can't have the women wrestle for more than 6 minutes? And if that is the case, then think to yourself, do we really need to do this, right? Can we instead have a women's exhibition match that goes 6 minutes and then do the finals for the Queen's Crown in America, where we can have the match be as long as we want it to be, right?
Right.
But instead, they made sure that it happened there. And so in the end, I don't give them an out for this, because they still had control over this. And yeah, if the final match was going to be, I wouldn't be having this problem if we had 6 or 7 6-minute long matches, right?
Right.
If all of the matches had been 6 minutes long, I'd be like, okay, fine. We're looking at a solid 40 minutes of total matches here.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't have been that drastically offset. But the fact that one of the matches wasn't even a full minute and a half long. Another one was just barely a minute and a half long. The only one that broke 3 minutes was the finals match. Right?
All right.
I mean, it's just ludicrous, right? So here's where we swing over to the AEW side. And I throw a little bit of... this is, like I said, some of it's going to be positive, some of it's going to be negative, and some of it's going to be a wait and see. AEW had a chance to kind of put their foot on the neck of WWE, because they had previously announced that there was going to be the women's championship tournament, right? For the TBS title, right? Prior to the finals of this, but they hadn't announced the brackets yet. They did announce that the final for that is going to be on January 5th at their first show on TBS, right?
Right.
Which is important to note, 22 shows away, not counting Full Gear, but 22 Rampages and Dynamites away from this Friday, or last Friday, I should say, right? Before they announced. So the brackets were going to be announced on Friday, starting with Saturday's Dynamite and going on. There were going to be 22 total televised shows before the final, right?
Damn. Okay.
Now the reason that's important is the AEW women's roster is 23 people. So they had a shot here to do a phenomenal roster-wide TBS title tournament. And yes, here's the deal. Let's take a step back and say, okay, yeah, 23 women. Well, you've got Brit Baker there, so that puts you down to 22 women. Let's say there are 6 other women that are in the main event. That puts you down to 16 total women, right?
Right.
But you still could do a tournament with 16 people in it. And
they only did 8, right?
12, I believe.
12. Okay.
Yeah, it's because 4 got first round buys. But that still means that there were at least 4 women that didn't get into this tournament for some reason whatsoever. And I don't know why. But this also means that this tournament doesn't have any surprise entrants, which I think this was a chance to bring in or even take one of these wrestlers that's new and put them as an entrant, like Sky Blue, right? She's new. She hasn't wrestled a lot, but she's kind of an up-and-comer. Put her as one of the first rounds. Let her have a good match and go out in the first round and still be good. Right. This has a chance. I mean, I'm going to point out, Riho is not in this. Emi Sakura is not in this. Yuka Sakazaki is not in this. Abaddon's not in this. there's still room for some people in this tournament that they didn't use. And then again, there's all sorts of room for them to have some free agents. Like give Laney Luck a run in this tournament, right? Even just one match, fine, great. Use your partnership with Impact Wrestling, although that might be over. We'll talk about that later. Use your partnership with Impact Wrestling. Give Jordan Grace a first round entrance in it, or Deonna Purrazzo, or the fucking Rosemary. Someone a first round entrance. Just have, in fact, a Rosemary versus Abaddon match in the first round.
Fire.
Even if Rosemary loses and goes back to Impact and all that stuff, it would have been a fun match in the first round, right? So,
right.
But in the end, they did, like I said, 12 total. They gave 4 people first round buys and then 4 first round matches. So there's going to be 4 first round, 4 second round, 2 semifinals, and then a final. Which still, I mean, that fills a lot of weeks, but it doesn't fill all 22. Of those weeks, right? It doesn't fill the 22 weeks exactly. And that's where they kind of dropped the ball here. So I give them a small crime for this, because they had a chance to really make this tournament something, right? To make this tournament like a brand encompassing tournament that would have huge matches and then, introduce people to some great new talent, some talent that has not been seen on Dynamite, right? Sky Blue wrestled once on Dynamite in a losing match to fucking Jade Cargill, I want to say it was, in like minute. Something like that. And she deserves a shot to show off a little bit more of herself before losing. I'm not saying she wins. I mean, in the end, one of these 12 people on this was going to win one way or another, most likely. Right. And we can talk, and we can even fantasy book this tournament and see if we can choose who's the eventual winner. But in the end, they had a chance to make this a huge thing, and they kind of dropped the ball on this. So I give them a crap for that. But, and here's where there's the wait and see part on this. Number one, it's still more matches than the Queen's Crown tournament. Queen's Crown tournament had 7 total matches. This one is going to be 8, 10, 11 matches, right? So that's 4 more matches, right? So it's still more, right? But it's not as
they have more people, no? Wasn't the SmackDown one 8?
Like in terms of roster size?
Like tournament?
Tournament, no.
16?
The WWE one?
Yeah.
It only had 2 first rounds for each side. So 4 first rounds, 2 semifinals, and a final. So 7 total matches.
Oh, okay.
And this one is going to have 11 total matches, right?
Snap.
But I would argue that I can go through and count, but as a whole, I would say that AEW, that WWE has more total women. That does include NXT though, which, it's kind of a shame that they've put NXT back as the redheaded stepchilds and are forgetting about them for these tournaments, but that's another thing altogether, right? So in the end, they're still only going to have 11 matches, which now means we're probably only going to get 1 on television per week, right?
All right.
Because with 22 total televised shows before that, they can't do 2 a week, because then they'll run through this tournament and then they'll have 4 weeks where they're like, we're just waiting for the 5th.
Well, I mean, you could do a promo. You can build up the hype for the final.
You could. And so I'm not saying that they won't do that at some point, but at the same point, they're not going to have the tournament done, in 4 weeks and then spend 2 months saying, it's good.
Well, I mean, it would be 11 matches. So once a week. That's 11 shows. I guess
puts them right there. Like I said, 22 total shows before then. So yeah, 1 a week would put it right there. But that means either on Rampage or Dynamite, but not on both, which is right.
Unless you do twice, you do it once or twice where you have 2 matches in the week, and then you build a little promo time.
Yeah. And they might, but tournaments like this typically aren't built around promos. So anyway.
Yeah, but AEW's women's roster needs it.
I agree. And here's the deal. This tournament could set up some future feuds. And there definitely will be some fun matches out of it. So we're going to talk a little bit about the tournament on here. The first round, the first match that already has happened, Ruby Soho versus Penelope Ford.
Ooh, yeah.
That's based off a feud that's been going on between them. Penelope Ford and the Bunny have been using brass knuckles. They knocked Ruby Soho out with the brass knuckles last week. It was a match, Bunny versus Ruby Soho. They used them last week. This week, Penelope Ford versus Ruby Soho in the first round. Ruby Soho won by preventing them from using the brass knuck. So she moves on to the second round.
Right.
But the three other matches that have not taken place yet, one of them has already been confirmed to be on Dynamite this week, and that's Serena Deeb versus Hikaru Shida in a rematch of their match from last week.
That should be fun.
Which should be another fun one. And to be perfectly honest, I don't know how this goes, right? Is it time for Hikaru Shida to get her victory back? Or is this going to be another Serena Deeb winning as a heel to drive Hikaru Shida even more angry?
I feel like Serena. I feel like they're high on Serena Deeb, but I've been hearing a lot more about her the last few weeks. She's definitely getting a lot more TV time. She's a great wrestler.
Yeah. I think they're high on her, but I also think they're using her to build Hikaru Shida up and to build Hikaru Shida a new character, a darker character. So she's not just
which is why she loses.
Which is why she might lose. Exactly. So it could go either way. But the winner of that, the winner of the Ruby Soho versus Penelope Ford, Ruby Soho, goes on to the second round against Chris Statlander. Winner of Hikaru Shida versus Serena Deeb will go on to face Nyla Rose, which also throws a question into this, because which is the match that could further a feud more? Serena Deeb versus Nyla Rose or Hikaru Shida versus Nyla Rose? Hikaru Shida versus Nyla Rose, but Serena Deeb comes out and costs her the match. Nyla Rose goes on. That could drive a storyline. Inversely, Nyla Rose versus Serena Deeb, but Hikaru Shida comes out and attacks Serena Deeb in the match and helps Nyla win. I guess maybe does something. Oh. Next, first round one, the Bunny versus Red Velvet. Really could kind of go either way.
Yeah,
they've been using the Bunny more. Penelope Ford could help her win. The brass knucks could come into play. Red Velvet, who had the winner of this, goes off to face Jade Cargill, and who has been Red Velvet's main feud? Jade Cargill.
Right.
So that could go either way. Anna Jay versus Jamie Hayter is the final first round match. Winner goes on to face Thunder Rosa.
Right.
This one might be the easiest one to book, in my opinion. And that's simply this. Jamie Hayter is part of Brit Baker's crew. Thunder Rosa and Brit Baker have a long history. So this is the one where Jamie Hayter versus Thunder Rosa, I think, makes the most sense. Maybe.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
But in the end, like I said, I wish they would done more matches. I wish they'd done more total women. And I wish, this is a chance they could have had for a surprise entrance that would have been shocking.
Look, they could. Someone could get injured, and they need a replacement.
It still could happen. There could be a storyline injury. Red Velvet can't fight, so she calls her friend, I don't know, so and so,
Kylie Smiley.
It will not be.
I really want to see her back.
Yeah,
so good.
She was so good, but I hate to break it to you, it will definitely not be her, considering she tweeted out today that she's canceling all booking for the near future because she is going into rehab.
Oh, okay. Then all the best to her for sure.
Yes.
She's phenomenal talent. I hope she gets all the help she needs, and this is her final vindication.
So the long story on it, her big tweet basically says she's been dealing with mental issues for a long time. It's what caused a lot of her previous things. She has up until recently been trying to self-medicate them with alcohol and marijuana, and it has not been helping, and it made things worse. And so now it's time for her to get treatment. And so rehab for the alcoholism and mental health.
Like she has a full-blown
alcohol. when you're self-medicating with alcohol, it can easily
lead to an addiction.
So anyway, best wishes for her. Hopefully everything gets figured out, because she's phenomenal. And I mean, I don't care if it's New Japan or NWA or Impact or AEW.
At this point, wherever she's happy. Wherever she's happy with, whatever gives her the least stress.
But anyway,
do your rehab thing, and then
But there are lots of people that it could potentially be. Yes. But in the end, I just think if this first round had been 2 more matches or 3 or 4 more matches just to set some things up, I think it would have been a lot of fun. Because like I say, I mean, there's Big Swole isn't in it.
All right.
Like I said, Emi Sakura's not in it. Kira Hogan's not in it. Leva Bates isn't in it. Layla Hirsch isn't in it.
There's double up.
Rebel's not in it. Riho's not in it.
Does Rebel really need to be in? Has she wrestled yet?
Yeah, she's wrestled a few times. However, the few times she's wrestled in AEW, it's been kind of joke wrestling, because it's been like Brit Baker throws her to the wolves and has her wrestle in her place, sort of a thing.
But not like legitimate wrestling.
But yeah, Tai Conti's not in it. Yuka Sakazaki's not in it. And then again, there's opening for like these Red Velvets or Laney Lux or whoever, give some independent wrestler a chance to come up and I basically use it as a tryout. I mean, you're using independent wrestlers on your shows on AEW Dark. Layla Hirsch, Ryo Mizunami wrestled on the AEW Dark Elevation that recorded today, right? Emi Sakura and Reika Tahaka wrestled today. There's a chance for Lulu Pencil, who comes out with Emi Sakura. I had never seen a Lulu Pencil match before. I got to see one the other day as part of the Eve Riot Girls of Wrestling. She's hilarious. Her gimmick is kind of the opposite of Orange Cassidy. And I'll explain it this way. Orange Cassidy's gimmick is someone who really, really can wrestle but doesn't want to wrestle, right? Okay. And so he puts in the minimal effort. Lulu Pencil's gimmick is someone who really, really wants to wrestle but can't wrestle very good. So she's always struggling to try to overcome her inadequacy, and puts in all of the work. But it really isn't all that great. But here's the deal: it takes a lot of work, and you actually have to be a really good wrestler to wrestle poorly, right? On purpose.
It's weird when you say it like that, but
it sounds backwards, but it really is tough, because to wrestle poorly in a good way is really tough to do. Like, there are a lot of bad wrestlers who go out there and just wrestle bad, right?
Right.
And they can be bad. But to wrestle poorly in a good way is really tough to do. It's kind of like when you're watching a TV show and one of the actors has to sing badly, right?
Mm-hmm.
Most actors that are on TV or on Broadway can sing. Maybe they might not be the best singers, but they can sing, right?
Right.
To purposefully sing badly is actually really hard to do, because you have to fight all the instincts in your brain to sing right. If you're just a bad singer, it's one thing. But if you're someone who already can sing and you're trying to sing poorly, it's really hard to do. It's the same thing with this. You can tell. I mean, she trained with Emi Sakura. She obviously can wrestle, but her gimmick is that she can't. and watch a match with her where she
What's her name again?
Lulu Pencil.
Lulu.
Yep.
Lulu. Okay.
Lulu Pencil. She's
that should be
hilarious,
interesting.
right? And so throw her in a first round match against you choose someone who's experienced and yet also has a little bit of fun.
Pencil, Pencil.
Yes, like Pencil. But you throw her in a first round match against Ruby Soho, right? Where you have Ruby Soho, the serious wrestler, and then Lulu Pencil just kind of stumbling around the ring. It could be hilarious. Anyways.
So the thing I think you're also forgetting about too, Jesus Christ, the thing you're also forgetting about too is WWE's not all that great with booking their women, I would say, or they haven't been for the longest time. These matches look great on card.
That's why I said there's some of this that's to be continued, right?
Yeah.
Because I give them credit for having more matches. I give them credit for doing this tournament with a like. Here's the problem with the Queen's Crown tournament. It's like, what's the long-term goal of it, right?
Well,
you get to call yourself Queen so-and-so for a while. So now we're
Queen Zelina.
Queen Zelina is going to come out.
It sounds really good.
Is it going to have any long-term effects? I take a moment to point out when Braun Strowman won the Greatest Royal Rumble and got a Greatest Royal Rumble belt, and then it was never mentioned again.
Right.
You know, in the end, this is going to have stakes. The winner of this is going to come out weekly wearing a TBS belt.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, though, even if you want to counter the men's King of the Ring, what does it really do for them? The only people that it's really propelled was King Corbin. King Corbin made that work like it was nobody's business. And Austin when he won. Because it gave him the attitude era. But in reality, that was just the speech.
Yeah. Macho King.
Macho, okay. That's fair.
But in the end, but no, I agree 100%. The King of the Ring tournament has basically no real stakes other than this. I get to call myself King for a while. And I mean, here's the deal: is what the
or King Booker. King Booker too.
King Booker, I guess. What the fuck's Nakamura gonna do now that he can't be King Nakamura anymore? Because there's a new King of the Ring, and it's not him.
He's gonna get boobs to get a new solo. That's it.
Yep. Says I'm going after the Queen's Crown next year. Anyways,
I mean, I honestly I can see them do that though, which is the sad part.
Yeah, but again, that's where you're not wrong. There's still a wait and see on this because we don't know how this is going to go. However, I do want to point out that there's already at least some evidence that this is going to go better. And that is they've already had one round of this tournament. Ruby Soho versus Penelope Ford, which went 8 minutes and 30 seconds long and was a great match.
Right.
Wasn't the best match in the world. I'm not saying that. Penelope Ford still has some polishing to do. Ruby Soho, I think, is great. I've always said she's great, but Penelope Ford still needs a little bit of polish. But they gave it 8 minutes and 30 seconds, which, I want to point out again, that was almost half the length of the entire Queen's Crown tournament. That was well over a third. That was like 40% of the Queen's Crown tournament right there.
Wow.
So if they have two more matches of that length or near that length, they've already in this tournament outdone the Queen's Crown tournament in terms of match length. Right. So there's at least some evidence to point that they're going in the right direction with it. But there's a wait and see on it, right? If next week we talk about it and their match this week, which is supposed to be Hikaru Shida versus Serena Deeb, if this goes 2 minutes and 40 seconds or even 3 minutes and 20 seconds or whatever, I'm going to have words about it because that's not the way we need to see it go.
Right.
We need these matches to be competitive, and we need them to go for a decent amount of time. I'm not saying we have 30-minute slobber knockers every week on them, although it would be fucking great. But
there's not enough time, unfortunately, with everything that they're doing.
There isn't, but I've said before that it would be nice if they would, even just once in a while, dedicate the majority of a Rampage or the majority of a Raw to the women's division. Just every once in a while. Yeah.
But I mean, you can afford to do that on the Rampage, man. Full hour. Just
I would have no problem with it. Even just once in a while. Even once a month. This Rampage is a full hour women's division. Great. Let's do it. But so that's the wait and see on this, is we don't know in the end how it's going to go. But we do have evidence as of right now that they're at least not going to shortchange these matches on the regular. Right. And so that's where there's a little wait and see on this, but there's a positive and a negative. I would love to have seen more matches. I would love to have seen more contestants overall. But in the end, as long as they give us 6-minute matches, 6+ minute matches on the regular, I'm probably going to be pretty happy on it in the long run.
Right.
Again, I would love to see them in the end, them average around that 9-minute mark as a whole. Because I point out here, we're going to take this out, and I'm just going to talk about the matches that took place on Dynamite, which aired yesterday for us. Well, what time is it? Now, 2 days ago for us, because it's right after midnight for me. But so we had 1 minute, went 14 minutes and 28 seconds, 8 minutes and 30 seconds, squash match that went 1 minute and 54 seconds, 7 minutes and 31 seconds, but there's a caveat on that one. A squash match that went just over a minute, and then 11 minutes and 43 seconds. So there was a total of 6 matches in 2 hours. But most of them, if I did the math here, I would say the average as a whole was about 8 minutes. Somewhere around there. I can do the math a little closer, but you have 3 matches above 8 minutes, 1 right about 8 minutes, and 2 matches well under. So I think it's going to come to about that, right? And I'd be fine with that in the end. You go back to Rampage, 3 total matches, 8 minutes and 12 seconds, 6 minutes and 46 seconds, 16 minutes and 20 seconds. Let's go back to Dynamite the week before. 9 minutes and 38 seconds, 8 minutes and 12 seconds, squash match of 47 seconds, 10 minutes and 50 seconds, 7 minutes, 42 seconds, 12 minutes, 28 seconds. So AEW, historically speaking, even their women's matches that air on Rampage or Dynamite typically go 6 to 10 minutes long, right?
Right.
In fact, as a whole, and this is where I'll bring up my fun math that I've done as a whole. As a whole, since September 1st, no, August 1st, since August 1st, all of the matches that have aired on either AEW TV or AEW Dark or Dynamite, the women's matches have averaged 4.25 minutes. So about 4 minutes and 15 seconds, somewhere around there, right? They've had a total of 96 matches, and I want to say 37 of them were under 3 minutes, which means that the vast majority of them, 2/3 of them, were over 3 minutes long. But you look at the ones that were shorter than 3 minutes, and almost all of them are person that they're pushing defeats unknown person. Jade Cargill defeating Amber Nova in 45 seconds, right? That's a squash match that's designed to build Jade Cargill as a monster, right?
Right.
Nyla Rose defeating Valentina Rossi in just under 2 minutes.
Okay.
Again, building Nyla Rose as a monster again. Jade Cargill defeating Katie Arquette in a minute and a half.
Think there's any relation to David Arquette?
Probably not, but she might have chose her name because of that.
Hmm.
Nyla Rose defeating Tina San Antonio in 39 seconds. You know, you're seeing kind of a pattern here where it's big name defeating kind of unknown. Like even when you get to Ty Conti defeating Rebecca Scott in 2 minutes and 30 seconds, that's still a match.
That's longer than 80% of WWE's women's matches.
Yep. And it's still name wrestler that they're pushing, defeating enhancement talent. Let's use the phrase enhancement talent for them.
Jobber.
You could also call them jobber. I'm going to say enhancement talent. So the vast majority of the short matches are enhancement talent matches, which is what they're supposed to be. When you get to the matches that feature two named wrestlers, so let's just scroll here. Two wrestlers that we know their name, Ty Conti and Penelope Ford. 8 minutes and 29 seconds.
Right.
Diamante and Nyla Rose versus Big Swole and Julia Hart, 6 minutes and 34 seconds. The Bunny versus Tay Conti, 4 minutes and 43 seconds. Jamie Hayter versus Red Velvet, 7 minutes and 1 second. Ruby Soho versus Jamie Hayter, 7 minutes and 27 seconds. So when they've got named wrestlers versus each other, they tend to give them more time. Just in general. And so these Queen's Crown ones, from a historical standpoint, not the Queen's Crown, but this TBS title, from a historical standpoint, stands a really good shot of the matches being around 6 minutes plus long on average.
Exactly.
So in the end, I will likely not have as big of a complaint against the TBS one as I do against the WWE one. However, like I said, this is a wait and see part of this. We'll find out over the next 11 weeks, I guess, how this goes. But
if they really mess up, you'll find out sooner, because if they do end up doing 2 a week, then
or if this week's Dynamite comes up and the Hikaru Shida versus Serena Deeb is over in a minute 50 seconds, I'm gonna have something to say about that, because I want to see that match go 10 minutes. Now, I'll point out that they did just have that match. What was it, 2 weeks ago?
3 weeks ago, actually.
2 weeks ago. Was it Rampage or Dynamite? I think it was Dynamite. Just gotta find it, because Serena Deeb versus Hikaru Shida on Dynamite on the 6th of October, 10 minutes and 15 seconds. So I would expect this match, regardless of who wins, I would expect this match to go that 9 to 11 minutes, somewhere around there, right? That's what I would expect. But in the end, the interesting thing about this TBS tournament, and this is something that, we might disagree on, because you thought the ending of the women's the Queen's Crown was surprising. I don't know of this field who's gonna win
in AEW.
Like, I don't know. Like, Thunder Rosa, she very well might win.
I'm thinking Thunder. I'm thinking Nyla. I'm thinking Ruby. I'm thinking Deeb, because I want that underdog. Yeah. Do you push someone else? Yeah, definitely unpredictable.
It's unpredictable. Here's the deal. I think I think Thunder Rosa is probably not going to win, if only because I think they're going to push her back to the main card, have her eventually challenge Brit Baker, right? She's the one that I think is probably the most likely.
She doesn't really need a tournament, technically,
because she doesn't. Well, and she doesn't need the TBS title. I mean, she's already one half of the highest rated women's match in AEW history, the Brit Baker versus Thunder Rosa Lights Out match.
I gotta watch that again. That was a great match.
But I think they're gonna put it on the Bunny or Red Velvet? Probably not.
Right.
But Jade Cargill it's a chance. They're really high on Jade Cargill. Put that TBS belt on her to try to rocket strap her to the top. Maybe, I don't know. Serena Deeb or Hikaru Shida. You know, is this going to be the Hikaru Shida redemption story? She wins the TBS title, or is that considered a step down from a former AEW World Title holder? Do you have Serena Deeb be the one who wins it? Chris Statlander or Ruby Soho? It could go either way. Ruby Soho has been in the main event, but she didn't win versus Brit Baker. Chris Statlander's been in the main event, but she didn't win versus Brit Baker. So I literally don't right now, if you and I both filled out this bracket, if we sent this bracket to DA Fabe and had him fill it out, I have a feeling we would all fill it out differently. Entirely. Like, aside from Ruby Soho beating Penelope Ford, which we already know happened, I could see almost every pick being different, in one way or another.
So it's unpredictable. I just don't know if it's unpredictable because I haven't learned enough about them based off of AEW, just not really doing much. They're doing a lot more now, but I still feel it's like you should have given me more. Or if it's just because of the fact that, hey, it can go either way sort of ordeal. But again, does that allude to, well, you didn't really give me much story to work on, although it's just a tournament. The storylines are what's going to ultimately lead me to pick one side over the other, which I don't technically have. So that's just my only thing. And I've been saying for weeks and months on end, I don't have a lot of faith in how they book the women's division in AEW. But I am excited for them to hopefully prove me wrong with this, and excited to talk about that when the women's is all over and they don't hopefully pull a WWE.
Yeah. Well, and that's the deal is, I know on your cheater show, you talked about, not watching Dark and Elevation.
Right.
For lots of reasons, and I get it. I don't exactly fault you for it. I don't watch them every week because first of all, and there's something I talked about one of the weeks when you weren't here with DFA. One of my problems with Dark and Elevation is that they're not a set time period. They premiere at a set time on YouTube, but you don't know whether you're setting aside an hour or 2 hours of your life for it.
Oh, really?
Right? Or 30 minutes.
Oh. Has it changed that dramatically?
You better believe it has. Give me 1 second to pull up
30 minutes.
No,
there wasn't like an Elevation or Dark that was 30 minutes.
There was one that was pretty darn close to it.
Oh wow.
Give me 1 second to pull up the AEW.
That's weird.
They have an AEW Dark playlist.
I mean, I imagine you would just have it as a time set. Like, you can go on anytime you want. It's a YouTube channel, sure.
Yeah, no. The time it premieres is always the same and everything.
But it's not like, okay, we premiere at 7, we finish at 9.
Nope. So, not including this last week, they did 2 special event ones that were favorite matches of all time on Dark. And those went long. Like the night 2 one was 3 hours long. But that's a compilation one. That's not. AEW Dark from last week on Tuesday, 6 matches, 40 minutes long.
Wow, 6 matches.
AEW Dark Elevation from Monday of last week, 4 matches, 25 minutes long. All right. Okay, nice and short, less than an hour. Do all that. AEW Dark from 2 weeks ago, 4 matches, 22 minutes long. Dark Elevation from 2 weeks ago, 7 matches, 49 minutes long. Okay, still under an hour. Okay, that's fine, right? We're going to go back another week. AEW Dark from 3 weeks ago, 13 matches, an hour and 24 minutes long.
It's 13 matches, though.
Yeah, it's a lot of matches. I'm getting it, whatever. But again, the Elevation from that week, 10 matches, 51 minutes long. So now Dark has, in 3 week span, been 22 minutes long all the way to an hour and a half long. right? But no set time frame for it. Let's go back to 4 weeks ago. Dark from 4 weeks ago, 11 matches, an hour and 12 minutes long. Elevation, don't know how many matches were on it. It doesn't say specifically. I want to say it's 4 matches, 38 minutes long, right? So Elevation right now is proving to be all under an hour most weeks, right? 5 weeks ago, Grand Slam week, Dark 14 matches, hour and 47 minutes long. Elevation 9 matches, 54 minutes long. Okay, now it's getting up there. But then Dark from 5 weeks ago, 8 matches, 54 minutes long. Elevation 8 matches, 40 minutes long. And this is getting into exactly what my problem is with it. Oh, here's an Elevation that's now an hour and 14 minutes long. We don't know how much time to set aside to watch this.
Right.
You set aside 2 hours?
Kind of weird. Well, I guess because you can always replay it. I guess they don't necessarily say, hey, you don't necessarily have to watch it live. It's like you're PVRing it. Come back when you have time.
I get that. I think it's a bad choice, is what I'm saying. In the end, we need to treat these just like a television show. They have a premiere time just like a television show already. So have a set time period for it. And then schedule them. Because my biggest problem with Dark and Dark Elevation is there's basically no promo. There's no setup. There's no backstage vignettes. There's no anything.
Why I don't watch it, right?
It's just match.
I don't know why you don't make it live. Because it's after Dynamite or before Dynamite anyways, right?
That
you just go in it. You just have to have the announcers live, really, in reality.
Yeah, yes and no. Sometimes they record it after Dynamite. Excuse me, I got a tickle in my throat. Sometimes they record it after Dynamite, but most weeks they're recording it on Sundays at Universal Studio. And they record both Dark and Elevation back to back. So you don't want to have them live at that point, because then it would just be Sunday afternoon is all wrestling, and then there's not Tuesday, And so they want to have it on Monday. They want to have it on Tuesday. They basically want to have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday wrestling. And so I get that. But my point is, you need to just produce it like a TV show. Have backstage vignettes, have promos, give these up-and-comers time to shine, develop the storylines. Because right now it's just, here's a match. We've got another match coming up. So stay tuned for that. Okay, this match is over. Now let's talk about that match. Boom, we're in that match. Okay, don't forget, later on we've got this match. Oh, now it's time for that match. Boom, boom, boom. And there's no storyline development. And I get it. Some of these matches are against nobodies, against jobbers, against enhancement talent. There's not much to build up. But you still can have the name wrestler. You can still have Chris Statlander, who's going up against, independent wrestler from Missouri, deliver a promo saying, I've watched your tape and you're good, but you're not Chris Statlander good, or whatever. And you can use those to take these 6 to 10 matches and put them into a format that fills basically an hour, so people know every week on Monday night, set aside an hour to watch Dark. On Tuesday night, Elevation. On Tuesday night, set aside an hour to watch Dark. You have this, because right now, half of the time, the reason I don't watch Dark is I look at the time and I go, I don't have that much time to watch it. Right? So I maybe start it, and then here's one from a month and a half ago, 52 minutes long. I watched about a third of it and I haven't finished it. And why is that? Because I didn't have time to set aside for the full amount, and then I didn't come back to it.
Right.
And with almost anything online, you want people to start it and sit through the whole thing.
Right.
And I get it. A lot of Dark and Elevation is about building up a back catalog for the eventual streaming service, which, knock on wood, is coming soon. But right now, I think AEW could benefit from using it not just as a tryout space and developmental space for wrestlers in the ring, but also use it as a way to build some storylines and build promo skills for these people. Because here's the deal. One of the things that AEW's both men's and women's division has struggled with is promo skills. And I think a lot of it has been just the fact that a lot of these people never had to deliver promos on the regular. An independent wrestler doesn't really deliver promos regularly, right?
Right.
because if you're in a independent wrestler in the Quebec area, right? You're wrestling at probably 3 different promotions on a semi-regular basis, just kind of rotating between them. Right.
It's really more just the whoever's the champion, they have a little thing. And if there is a promo, it's a recorded promo most of the time.
Yep.
And those are even bad, but there's no training to it. It's just the owner,
so,
hey, say this, okay, go. Okay.
And that's kind of the thing is in the end, one of the things that WWE does well is training people on promos, and not even just how to deliver the promo, but how to be comfortable in front of a camera when delivering a promo. I'm not even talking about the scriptedness. I don't care if the person doesn't speak well in front of a camera, if they or doesn't make up lines well on the spot. You can script something, that's fine, right?
Right.
It's about being comfortable in front of a camera, and a perfect example of that is Brit Baker. Brit Baker in early AEW was not very comfortable and didn't have her character figured out in front of a camera. Brit Baker now...
I gotta watch that. Like, you're saying AEW Dynamite just starting?
Yeah, when they first started out, Brit Baker... First of all, Brit Baker was positioned to be the face, and it took her a while to figure out that she's a heel, right? Second of all, just being comfortable in front of a camera was not easy for her. She didn't know how to stand. She didn't know how to look. And she is light years ahead of that now. In fact, we're gonna actually skip ahead when talking about Britt Baker, because she is actually one of my commendations this week. Did you get to watch all of Dynamite yesterday?
Yes and no. I was technically preparing for the podcast. I was cheating you on.
Yeah, I get it. Right. So, Dynamite yesterday, Britt Baker faced off against who was it? Or was it on Rampage? It was on Rampage.
It was on Rampage, yeah.
It was on Rampage. Britt Baker versus Anna Jay.
Right.
There was one moment in that is a perfect example of Britt Baker's improvement in being on TV. I'll use that as the way to describe it, right? Because she was always a good wrestler. Right? Her wrestling skill has never been any problem, right? Her problem has been the camera skills, right? Which we've talked about before on this show. I've talked about it with DA Fabe. I'm sure we've talked about it on times when you've been on here. But camera work is one of the tougher things for independent wrestlers to get used to when they go to WWE, AEW, Impact Wrestling, whatever, right?
Right.
Because on the indies, you don't have to care about where the camera is.
Exactly.
In fact, most of the time, you don't have a camera, right? If you're wrestling for Quebec Bar Wrestling League, right, there's probably not a camera there.
Right.
So you just come out and you deliver your lines straight to the drunkards in the audience, and then you wrestle.
Exactly.
And this is not, again, this is not trying to dog on Quebec Bar Wrestling League.
No,
or anyone like it. It's just the nature of independent wrestling is about the crowd. Televised wrestling is about the camera.
Right.
And early Britt Baker wasn't comfortable in front of the camera, didn't know where to look for the camera. Britt Baker now, in the middle of a match, After hitting Anna Jay with a move, Britt Baker on the mat looks over and winks at the camera.
Oh, snap. Nice.
It was so well done. Like, she spotted where the camera is. She knows that camera's on. Wink. She played to the camera so well. And it's like
Nice.
night and day from early Britt Baker to now. She knows the camera. She knows how to play to the camera. She knows all of it. And that's something that a lot of them struggle with. Now, Anna Jay actually started off really well. I mentioned it. It was one of the things that impressed me the most with her from day one, is for someone who is really, really green in terms of wrestling skill. From point one, she knew how to work the camera. She knew how to work the angles of the camera, how to play your moves to the camera. You know, it's something Britt Baker's gotten a lot better with, and it shows. When applying the lockjaw, she turns the people so that they face the hard cam. Because that's the money shot, you know.
Right.
And you can tell when a wrestler is an independent wrestler who's never had to work about the camera, right? They play the wrestling moves to the crowd. Which doesn't sometimes look good on camera because the camera's not in that position. Once they know how to play to the camera, it changes things altogether. All of their moves face the camera. And that's where Britt Baker has gotten so much better, and that's where a lot of them have gotten better. And that's really what something like AEW Dark should be about, and Dark Elevation should be about. Getting these people not just in-ring time to show off what they can do wrestling-wise, but in-ring time to show off, to learn how to find the camera. And then pre-ring work to show them how to exploit the camera and cut promos and vignettes and whatever. So, but anyways, on that, we'll move forward because we talked about the TBS Women's Championship tournament. There's some good things I'm happy about. There's some things I'm a little nervous about, and then there's things that we just don't know. Right,
exactly.
So there's going to be put a pin on this. We'll come back to this on a future episode, whether to be pissed about this or not. And maybe it'll be next week. Maybe I'll come on next week and be like, son of a bitch, AEW, you fucking pissed me off. I'm hoping I don't. Right. But here's what I will say before we roll on, though. I want everyone to know and understand that I want WWE to be good. I may be an AEW mark. You can call me that. Shoe fits, whatever. But I want WWE to be good. Right. Because when WWE is good, it makes AEW good.
Right.
So I want them to be. I want Impact to be good. I want Ring of Honor to be good. I want them all to be good. Right. That's part of why my frustration with WWE right now is that they have everything it takes to be good, and they're choosing to book poorly.
Well, I mean, it's weird because they've been booking poorly for quite some time. And even with competition being there for 2 years now, you know, whether you thought it was competition or wasn't competition or whatever have you, it's still not great. So I just don't know. I don't know if they can actually book well anymore, or what it's going to take. I think Vince at this point is just focusing too much on the business side, money-wise, and not necessarily caring all that much for his product, and just looking towards the future of selling. I don't know if that's gonna change his mind. Whether I think AEW did 500,000 this week. I don't know if that's up from last week, Dynamite, or lower.
I think it's a little bit lower, but here, Saturday Dynamites are always going to be low.
Right.
Anytime you have to move off your regular time slot, you're going to be low. And especially going to be low during baseball playoffs, college football season,
Yeah.
Hockey season. You know, I mean,
there's hockey games on Saturdays for sure, a
yeah.
bunch. So
You know, all of this stuff is going to do it. But just even without that, television viewers are creatures of habit. Right?
yep.
We love to get into a routine, right?
Mhm.
Monday, and hey, to be perfectly honest, it's why Raw still gets over 1 million viewers every week, right?
Mhm.
As bad they could literally book dog shit matches and they would still get 1 million views a week on USA Network. You know
I
why?
don't know, man. If I get a bunch of Kendall from Hell matches, I don't know how much I'd be watching.
There's always going to be that core group of WWE fans who have been
Vince, next
watching
week
it.
on Raw, book a Kendall from Hell, nothing but on Raw, and let's see how you do. Because
But these people, this core group of people, have been doing it, have been watching this show on Monday nights at this time frame for 30 years.
for decades, yeah.
And they're a creature of habit. And that's just what they do. They come home at 7 o'clock Central, turn on USA Network because there's WWE Raw. And they're gonna that's core group. Now that's the 40 to 60 crowd for the most part. You know what I mean?
Right.
They're just creatures of habits. This is what they've always done. This is what they're always gonna do, no matter
Yep.
how bad and they'll get on Twitter later and be like, I can't fucking believe WWE sucks so much. But they're creatures of habit, and that's
They'll
what
watch.
they're gonna do. They're gonna watch it. So they will probably, for a very long time, continue to have at least 1 million views on Monday nights, no matter how bad they get. But it's the same thing with everything else. Wednesday night, how you even a week ago tried to find AEW Dynamite on Wednesday night because you forgot that they
This
were
week I
moved.
remembered.
This week you remembered, but last week and the week before you didn't. And
I was like, what's going on? What's going on?
what's
What
going
is
on?
Adam
Why
Page?
isn't there Dynamite? I can't.
What does
find
Adam
it.
Page's Twitter mean? I don't get what's happening. What is he talking about? Why can I find it? I'm like, oh, right. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
Sure.
And everything makes sense once I look it up. But that's the deal is as a creature of habit. And so anytime you move off that, you're going to be low. And Raw takes a hit if they move off Monday night for whatever reason. If there's a major event of presidential debate on a Monday night and they get preempted.
Biden versus Trump too.
Yeah.
Yep. Too soon.
No.
Too soon.
Please no. Anyways, so it's always going to happen. So I don't read too much into the ratings for AEW this week. In fact, I'm really trying my hardest to get out of talking ratings because in the end, for the average fan, ratings don't fucking matter.
Right.
And I do think that fans tend to get too caught up in ratings. And it's all about tribalism. You know, we love to associate ourselves with one side and then fuck the other side. You know, it's why we get so heavy into sports. You know, I'm a Patriots fan. You know, fuck you, Cowboys.
Right.
I'm a Habs fan. Fuck whatever the team the Habs have a rivalry with. I don't fucking know hockey.
Boston Maple Leafs.
Yeah. Tribalism. And I get it, you know, and I'm an AEW fan. I want to see AEW do good. I'm not going to lie that. But I also want to see WWE do good. I also want to see Impact do good and Ring of Honor do good and New Japan do good and NWA do good and Zello Pro do good.
What did you? Who's calling you so late at night?
Well, it is our co-host.
One job. He's supposed to be taking care of his sick child. He is no longer getting Father of the Year. Check that out, though. Make sure.
Well, I'm not answering it, but I'm going to be like...
Well, text him. Yeah, no, I mean, look, at the end of the day, I think to a certain extent, although I call you an AEW mark and so on, you are at the end of the day, an unbiased wrestling fan in the sense that you are just a pure wrestling fan at heart, and at the end of the day, more wrestling for you and I would be better than one company just taking over,
Yes.
like so.
And that's the deal. So I've been trying to get away from talking ratings as much because I do think we, as wrestling fans, we get so tied up into it. And I want to point out, from a grand scheme of things, no one gave a fuck about wrestling TV ratings until the Monday Night Wars happened.
Right. Very valid.
And even then, the average fan shouldn't care. I mean, yes, they're important for the wrestling companies. They're important for the wrestling companies because ratings are how they sell commercials, and commercials are how they make money. So,
Right.
but here's the deal. I'm not Tony Khan. You're not Tony Khan.
Nope.
Neither of us are Vince McMahon.
Nope.
Neither of us are Anthem Entertainment or Sinclair Media Group. Right?
Or Titan. Yeah.
Or Titan or whatever. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So the ratings shouldn't actually matter to us because,
right.
Because in the end, the wrestling should be what matters. I'm be the first to admit I can sometimes get caught up and be like, Impact did 1.4 million or AEW did 1.4 million views this Dynamite.
But I mean, keep in mind, it also just gives us a stat, right? At the end of the day,
it gives us
500,000 people viewed AEW Dynamite this week.
But again,
1 million people viewed Raw.
But it's important to keep them in context and keep them and understand that in the end, they shouldn't matter to us. They matter to the executives. They matter to TBS. They matter to Tony Khan. And Tony Khan should 100% pay attention to him and program his thing in the best way that he can to promote his ratings.
Right.
But to the average wrestling fan and even the not so average podcast host, we need to take a step back and understand that these ratings don't actually mean anything to you and I. Right. It doesn't affect my life in one way, shape, or form if AEW gets 1.4 million watchers or 1.1 million viewers, right?
Oh, I mean, other than the fact that, hey, there's a lot more people tuning in this week, just out of pure human curiosity.
Again,
it's curious to them, but even for us, like, oh, well, what did they do this week that made 1 million people want to tune in?
I get it, but at the same point, we tend to focus so much on it as a whole that there's a whole thing. Go on.
Well, I mean, the dirt sheets focus on it. Yeah, the dirt sheets focus on it.
Not even that. Go on wrestling Twitter on any Thursday afternoon when Dynamite's ratings come out, and not just the dirt sheets. The dirt sheets will report it, right? But then your feed will just be absolutely killed by the WWE tribe bashing the numbers, the AEW tribe defending the numbers, WWE tribe coming on and saying, oh, they couldn't even break 1.3 million, even though they had Bryan Danielson and CM Punk on the show. And the AEW tribe coming out and saying, well, that's because there was a hockey game on the other channel or whatever. And in the end, it doesn't fucking matter to us. It's just a talking point to us, and we need to take a step back and as a whole say, what matters to us is, were we entertained?
Right.
And that's where my frustration with WWE comes from. We can talk about business decisions, this and that and everything, but in the end, my frustration is that they have all this potential to entertain people and all this potential to tell good storylines, and instead they're telling bad storylines.
But instead they have a title segment to end off the show.
Yes. And that's the deal is in the end, my frustration has nothing to do with their ratings and entirely to do with the fact that they're putting a bad program together. And yes, the bad program will show up in ratings, but it shouldn't be what we're focusing on. As wrestling fans, our focus should be on, were we entertained or not?
Right.
Because if we're entertained, the ratings will come, right? If AEW entertains me, I'm going to continue to watch.
Right.
Right. If WWE entertains me, I'm going to continue to watch. Period. It doesn't matter if WWE is fucking phenomenal and only getting 1.1 million views, right? I'm still going to be a happy camper because they're putting on a show that's really entertaining, right?
Right.
If WWE gets 6 million views and is shitty, I'm still going to be pissed because it's shitty programming.
Right.
Which, I'll point out, I was in the Monday Night Wars, I was on Team WCW, right? I didn't care about the ratings at the time. I didn't give a fuck about that. I thought the product, for the part of it that I really liked, was better on WCW. I did not like the WWE product for a long time. That's in the end. WWE starts winning, gets more views than WCW, right? But I still didn't like their product.
Right.
If podcasting had existed in 1997, I would have been on podcast talking about how much I did not like the WWE product at the time. I would have been in the minority because they were getting 7 million viewers a night.
Right.
But I would have been saying it. In the end, all I want is good product from either side.
Exactly.
From all sides. And the ratings are a symptom of a good product, but the ratings are not the product, and the ratings are not what we should be concerned with. We can talk back and forth about them. They can be used as an example of something, but in the end, what we really need to talk about is the product. So, but we'll move on. We're 2 hours now. I know it's really late for you, so we'll move on and talk about misdemeanors. We'll just kind of combine misdemeanors and commendations into one big schmoz here, to kind of roll through it faster.
That's fair. So I had one. I guess at the same night I will also give accommodations to Becky Lynch, perhaps, for standing her ground. Again, we don't know the full story. Whether we ever will is a different story altogether. But from what we've heard, I do give an accommodation for Becky Lynch for at least standing up. Right now it does sound like that Becky Lynch was the quote unquote hero of this whole shindig. And yeah, so I would like to give accommodations to Becky, but also to Xavier Woods, King Xavier. I don't know if I'm totally happy with Xavier winning necessarily, but I do think it is well deserved. Either way, I do think it does shed a little bad light on Finn. I don't know what the heck they're doing with Balor, but at the same time, I think that it is well deserved. And the guy was still so humble on his social media with Twitter and his excitement. And of course, he's a wrestling fan like all of us at the end of the day. So another accommodation would go to Xavier Woods, or King Xavier, excuse me. And I think King Xavier is going to do wonders with that come Monday night. So let's go. I'm excited to see that.
There's going to be a lot of fun from King Xavier. The New Day always take these sorts of things and run with them. So I'm down with that. I agree with that. This is a joint commendation and misdemeanor. It's weird. This is going to be a weird episode for that here, but I'm going to give both a commendation to Impact Wrestling and at the same point a misdemeanor to Impact Wrestling for Bound for Glory. And that is misdemeanor because there were a lot of expected debuts at Bound for Glory that did not end up happening for one reason or other. Big one, Braun Strowman, Titan, whatever he wants to go by, was expected to debut at it and did not. We mentioned that a little bit earlier, I think, but he didn't. So they and here's the deal. Scott D'Amore heavily hinted that he was going to be there, and then didn't. So that's a misdemeanor. Potentially Buddy Murphy might have been there. Bronson Reed was reportedly supposed to be there, and then they changed their mind at the last minute. So they pitched this with this whole idea that there were going to be all these surprise debuts or whatever at Bound for Glory, and then There really weren't. There was one surprise debut.
Which wasn't even a surprise, technically.
Which one are you talking about?
Oh, maybe we're not talking about... Well, the Iconics Inspiration.
The Iconics, yeah, the Inspiration. No, that wasn't a surprise because we knew it was him. There was one surprise debut in the Call Your Shot Gauntlet.
Oh, snap. The one match I miss. Okay.
Yeah. And it's gonna be weird for me to call this a commendation. And I can already tell you're gonna roll your eyes when I say it. But
getting my eyes ready.
Get your eyes ready. But for me, I think Impact Wrestling, I think this was hilarious for them to do. The Demon. And that's not Finn Balor's The Demon.
It's WCW's The Demon.
WCW's The Kiss Demon showing up.
So I kind of like that only because I technically just finished Gene Simmons' book. And he did talk about that and how he set that up in WCW. And I think that's the only reason why I kind of would stand it right now, because it is fresh in my mind and how Gene Simmons got that set up and so on. In fact, he took it to both WWE and WCW. Just WCW came up first and said, hey, we'll give you this much money to do it. So
and there's a couple of things that are important to remember, right? Because there are a lot of people like, oh, is Gene Simmons going to sue Impact Wrestling? I don't think so.
No.
For this reason, they did not call him the Kiss Demon. They just called him the Demon. And if you go back and actually watch the WCW thing from it, he was the Kiss Demon for a while, and then Kiss and WCW ended their partnership.
Right.
But the Demon continued to wrestle under the name The Demon.
WWE might have if they... I doubt it.
If they maintained the trademark.
Unless they have like a bundle of trademarks all just meshed together and here, this price is to keep it.
Yeah.
But I mean...
Probably not. But here's the deal is I give them a commendation for it because it was a surprise out of left field. There's a nostalgia
Did he do good?
shock with it. I don't think he was in it for super long. It was still just kind of fun. And the thing is, this is part of why I give him a commendation. I don't expect him to continue appearing.
Right.
He's not going to be a regular character on Impact.
I feel like he might be.
This was a nostalgia pop. Show up a couple once or twice and then be gone. Right. This was like this is like when the Boogeyman shows up in the WWE Royal Rumble. Right.
Right. Okay.
Pops the crowd, gets eliminated, eats some worms, and then leaves. Right. Or maybe pops the crowd, eats some worms, then gets eliminated. It doesn't matter. But I still think that's funny. I also, in talking about Impact Wrestling, have to say,
nice swerve.
Yeah, there were a couple like we'll get to the really nice swerve at the end here, but I did not expect Mickie James to win.
That too.
I thought this was going to be a Bill Deonna Purrazzo some more match, and instead it was a Mickie James winning the title match. I kind of expected the Good Brothers to drop the tag titles.
Right.
And they didn't. So that was kind of... But then the big one, Josh Alexander, the Walking Weapon, beat Christian for the Impact World title, which I was excited for.
Swerve.
And then Moose, who won the Call Your Shot Gauntlet earlier in the night, called his shot and speared Josh Alexander and pinned him to become the Impact World title.
With his wife and child still
With his wife and child in the ring. Yes.
Pretty crazy. Yeah.
So
that I was wondering, I'm like, when did they do a Money in the Bank thing? When was that? So that was the Call Your Shot Gauntlet. Okay.
Yep. So yes, a swerve. Didn't see it coming. Didn't expect them to do a same night cash in. I'm a little sad that Josh Alexander didn't get longer time with the belt because
He's good, man.
He's really good.
This is I think my first time really watching one of his matches.
Yeah.
So,
and I'm happy he's because he was with Ethan Page in the North,
right,
and he was phenomenal in that. I'm really happy to see him getting a singles run. And here's the deal: we already know that they're gonna turn this into a storyline. Josh Alexander is going to try to regain the belt. This is going to be back and forth. I
firmly believe he could beat Moose. Josh Alexander is pretty
he's
pretty
really good. And so, but the reason I'm giving this a commendation is because this is technically the first time Moose has been Impact World Champion.
Oh, okay.
Really. And so I'm excited for a little bit of that. Moose is going to have fun with it. But the side effect of this, though, is this also can be a misdemeanor because it also may be a symbol of the Impact AEW partnership being over. Because an AEW contracted wrestler is no longer their top champion, right?
Right.
The Good Brothers have not appeared on AEW TV in 3 weeks now,
right,
and are not expected to appear again. I think we've reached this point, and I'm sad because I think there was a lot more potential that could have been done from it. But I think,
why didn't you try to grab more of the Impact woman, Deonna Purrazzo?
Yeah, there would have been a lot of fun. I would have loved to have seen. Oh, Jordan Grace winning the Digital Media Championship. That was great. I give her.
I felt like you said champion shit. You said ship.
I said ship.
Okay.
I just didn't. I didn't go on my ship.
There you
championship.
But yeah, nice. Which means what exactly?
Well, it means she's now the Digital Media Champion.
Which means
she's got a belt that says Digital Media Champion.
Which represents what exactly?
It's their new mid-card belt.
Okay.
Well, new. It's
their new mid-card belt?
It's their spin on the TV champion.
Oh, right.
They haven't really put a lot of rules for it. But so now they've got the Impact World title. The X Division title is like their cruiserweight title, but not really because it's not weight limit. It's more style wise. Anyways, and then the Digital Media Championship, and then the Knockouts Championship. Knockouts being the women's championship. Digital Media Championship, however, is at least like so far.
TV title.
Well, it's like their TV title, but it's also all gender. Right.
Oh,
the matches that went into this featured
guys, girls.
Yep, guys and girls, and Jordan Grace being their first Digital Media Champion is.
Who did she beat?
I think there was multiple people in that. Give me 1 second here to pull it up.
While you do that, I don't really have any misdemeanors. So I'm going to switch it to another accommodation, and it's going to go to Dark Side of the Ring for their Luna Vachon episode, which was fire, and it was showcasing a lot on mental health. And I thought that is a fascinating story to tell for one of the women who've really invented the women's revolution before it was even a thing. And also for the previous one before that, which was technically the who was before Luna? K9. The K9 one was also pretty well, and Scott D'Amore was on that one. Him and K9 were pretty close friends, which also focused on someone not necessarily mental health related, but Johnny K9 definitely did have a dark side to him. So there could have been some sort of bipolarism, schizophreniaism, or something like that. That Johnny K9 had, just from all the wrestlers saying he was a good guy. Scott D'Amore mentioning that as well, and then him being in a biker gang and potentially could have. He was found not guilty after no evidence, but could have killed a few people while he was in that said gang. So Darkseid seems to always do amazing work. Did not watch the XPW one. I am going to look forward towards that, but I really love their not so much wrestling related, but about the individual itself. So Luna Vachon, the Johnny K9, then of course the Canyon. I wasn't also crazy on. I think the book is a much better impactful way to go on him, but that was also done pretty decently, but also really showcasing the dark side of the ring, pun intended. They just do phenomenal job, and they always, I shouldn't be surprised anymore, but they always just knock it out of the park. They're really good at that, and there's only 2 episodes left: the XPW episode that happened, and then the steroid scandal. Hulk Hogan and Vince McMahon, or Hulk Hogan and somebody. I don't know. I don't know the steroid scandal, but something in '93 about Hulk Hogan, and I guess
Hulk Hogan testifying against Vince. Yeah,
that's it. So and that I don't know much about. I'm also excited.
So, the Impact Digital Media title tournament final was a 6-way match featuring Jordan Grace, Chelsea Green, Crazy Steve, Fallah Bahh, John Schuyler, and Madison Rain. So 3 men and 3 women. The previous matches going into the tournament featured Tennille Dashwood versus Alicia, Chelsea Green versus Madison Rain, Fallah Bahh versus Sam Beal, Crazy Steve versus Hernandez. So a lot of those previous matches were men versus men, women versus women, right. But then the final match was intergender.
Well, I do hope going forward they do make it at least intergender. We don't really see that much, and I think it's a little, because it's maybe certainly a little touchy subject. But at the same time, with someone like Jordan Grace facing you, or a Diana Perezzo, like, I think no one would necessarily. They can handle their own. You know what I mean? It's not going to be like a massive.
Here's what I always bring up when
weight difference.
When people talk about intergender matches, they can't be believable, because why would you believe that a woman could beat a man? I go, we've spent a lifetime watching Finn Balor stand up against Braun Strowman, right? If this is just about strength or power or size, we should never believe that Finn Balor has a chance against Braun Strowman. But we do on a regular basis say, okay, Finn Balor can beat this bigger, stronger person. So why does anyone have a hard time believing that a Chelsea Green could pull out a victory versus
a Moose,
Josh Alexander, or a Moose, or whatever? In the end, they tell the storyline all the time about the smaller,
David
more
Goliath
agile
kind of thing,
wrestler getting the victory against the larger, more muscular wrestler. It happens in men versus men matches all the time. I mean, heck, it's half the reason that Spike Dudley had a career, right? Is because his entire career, or Marco Stunt, their entire career is based around little guy, plucky, undersized hero stands up against the big men.
Right.
And yeah, you can have them lose. And no one has ever said that an intergender match can't have the woman lose. In fact, it should happen, right? But it also is not. I mean, we're talking about a scripted reality type TV show.
Exactly. It's not like MMA or something.
Yeah. And
Although
quite
I think
frankly,
Nunes could knock anyone out. Give
yeah,
Nunes anything.
that's what I was gonna say. Nunes, Ronda Rousey in her prime versus most of the men's division of, you know, probably would have had a pretty decent shot, right? You know, when it comes to fight sports, skill plays a large part of it.
Right.
Now you're talking about scripted fight sports. Skill and script plays a large part of it. So let's suspend our disbelief and just fucking watch wrestling. Right. Jesus. So that's kind of my
as long as Joey Ryan isn't in the match or anything. Like,
I mean, here's the deal. I think Joey Ryan's a creep. But you go back and watch some of his matches. He had some phenomenal matches with Candice LeRae. Both as partner to Candice LeRae and against Candice LeRae, that the matches were really well done and it was believable either way. He's a garbage person apparently, but anyways, the final thing that I don't know whether to call it a commendation or a misdemeanor, because this is one of those wrestling gets real moments, and I don't want to call it either of those because it's a disservice to the wrestler involved to either make fun of it or make light of it in any way. So I'm just gonna say, just best wishes go out to Lance Archer. That was a very, very scary under rotation on a moonsault, very Brock Lesnar-esque.
But it wasn't a shooting star, it was a moonsault, right?
It wasn't a shooting star, it was a moonsault, but it was the same effective thing. It was under rotation. And landed basically straight on his head, and reports have it that he's fine.
He posted on Twitter that he was okay.
That he was okay.
And that he explained the scenarios. Look, guys, don't think of this as anyone's fault, AEW's fault or anything.
Under-rotated. I've done this move 1,000 times, and I under-rotated this time. And the thing is, Brock Lesnar had done the shooting star press 1,000 times.
That's it.
I just hadn't done it recently, and he got up there and he under-rotated. But in the end, I trust that AEW and Lance Archer are making sure that all of the best doctors look at
for sure,
and make sure that there's not even like a hairline fracture. Maybe I'm fine with him getting a month of rest, and just let that neck heal, because that was a very, very scary moment in that. I do give tons of credit to
Eddie Kingston
for first of all,
for him to go in to want to continue, for Archer to, and then for Eddie Kingston just to say, something's messed up here. Let me just do a roll.
A quick roll up, 1, 2, 3, finish the match. I don't know if Eddie Kingston was supposed to win or if that moonsault was supposed to be the victory for Lance Archer. Who knows, right? The dirt sheets might come out with a report later. It doesn't matter in the end.
I feel like he was maybe supposed to win, though. I don't know, because I feel like if Eddie Kingston was supposed to lose, then Eddie Kingston would have just made it like, he's like, bro, just touch me or something. And Eddie Kingston can just outact it, no problem.
I think this more had to do with
I don't think he'll be able to continue. So
and if it was a neck injury, let's not make you do any more motions than you have to. So a quick roll up protects your neck as much as we can.
Okay.
Let's just get this done and over with. But I give him a ton of credit for it. Either way. Just get it done. True professional either way. Scary moment though. Really scary moment watching it, because you knew that that was not supposed to happen, and it was not fun to see. And I mean,
even that other angle, the AEW angle, didn't look that bad,
but the fan angle from the outside,
I'm like, oh my god, I'm like, he really hit his freaking head.
Yeah, and so wrestling has the ability to get really real at a moment's notice on us. Back when I was younger, Sid Vicious jumping off the top rope and his leg just
Right.
folding in ways legs aren't supposed to fold. Or Brock Lesnar,
Right.
or I mean, we've seen that happen a ton of times.
Yeah.
And so, but best wishes out to Lance
Yeah.
Archer.
Get
Hopefully,
better.
everything's better, but take some time off, heal, man. Don't push yourself. We'll still be here.
That's it.
watching
And
us.
at the same time, since we are talking about Lance Archer, I don't know if you guys have ever mentioned, but big ups. Hopefully, Jake Roberts is also doing pretty well.
Mhm.
He has some kind of breathing issue, I believe it is. And here's to hoping for a speedy recovery on his end. The guy's just got his life back together a few years now, and I hope he does continue on that path, and prayers up to him as well. And yeah.
So, and then the final thing just to talk about, because it's kind of funny, but at the AEW Dark tapings tonight, featured the in-ring debut of two wrestlers that is not actually the in-ring debut of either of these wrestlers. Um,
Hmm.
so the first one was announced on Sammy Guevara's blog, was going to be a tag match featuring Fuego del Sol and Son of Fuego, aka Too Fast, Too Fuego.
Too fast, too fuego.
And Son of Fuego is 100% not Cody Rhodes. No.
No.
Anyone who
It's
says it's Cody
almost in that
Rhodes.
same breath that Sami Zayn is not El Generico.
Wait, no.
Same.
No.
But
you're
I mean,
joking.
they are right, though. This is his first tag match in AEW.
Mhm.
So they are right about that. It's not his debut for single matchup,
No.
but it's his debut for tag team. No?
Well, it's Son of Fuego's debut, because it's totally not Cody Rhodes. My eyes are hurting.
No,
And then
but
the
I mean,
other one,
but I mean, Del Fuego itself, though, isn't his tag team debut, though, technically?
I think he might have teamed once with
Okay.
Sammy or someone, but I'm not sure.
Okay.
And then I got to scroll back on my Twitter feed because I can't remember the name that they gave him. But totally not Daniel Bryan wrestled on in the Dark tapings. 100% not Daniel Bryan. I think it was. Let's see if it's Fightful's tweet. Nope, it wasn't him. So who was it? Anyways, I can't remember. Did I keep it
Like American Dragon or something?
No, he wrestled in a
like a full on suit, like
in a mask.
one piece, and a mask. Oh,
yeah. And,
how did they know it was him?
Because it's him.
Just his body.
This is totally riveting. But I'm trying to find what the name that he wrestled under.
So while you find that, can I actually ask you so you didn't end up watching Crown Jewel, correct?
I did not watch Crown Jewel.
You just watched the results. Okay. Read the results, rather.
Yes. Read the results.
Or you watched our cheating podcast.
I did watch at least some of it. Mostly so I could call you a whore.
Yeah, never seemed to disappoint.
God, what was his name? Anyways, there was even a picture of him. There we go. Infinito. And let's see, give me 1 second to find it here because and I think I lost you. Yeah, just me. So we'll wait for him to find a way to rejoin. Riveting stuff. If he does not show back up shortly, then we will go ahead and wrap this up. But I'm going to give him just a little bit of time. I'm betting his computer died. So here is Infinito wrestling on AEW Dark. And that is totally not Bryan Danielson. Nope. 100% isn't Bryan Danielson. There he is. Betting he's on his phone. Wait for the video to connect.
How do you have a video of this already?
This is just a fan cam picture of it but that's Infinito.
Infinito.
Which is 100% not Bryan Danielson. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, say no more.
Why do we think that's Bryan Danielson? Or not Bryan Danielson? Why would you say? I mean, it looks so much like him.
Yeah. In the end, here's the deal. Bryan Danielson has a wrestling style. We know Bryan Danielson when we see him.
Right. Did he actually do the kicks?
He won with what was it? Like just a roll up or something like that. Arm bar. Opened the show. Let's see.
Either way, if they want to watch it, we don't want to spoil it. But not Daniel Bryan will be making his debut as Infinito on AEW Dark. Yeah, so watch that and have fun.
Tons of fun. So watch that. But knowing that I'm betting your computer died.
It's almost going to. I'm gonna place it on charge actually.
There you go. But it is fine. We will go ahead and wrap things up for this. We've gone for 2.5 hours and talked about a lot. But if you joined us for the live stream, thank you for joining us. If you're listening to us later on or watching the replay on YouTube or Facebook, again, thank you as well. We'd love for you to join, but we understand we stream at a weird time. It's hard for some people to get here. It's just what works best for us.
Yeah.
Actually, works best for me. I'll say it. Doesn't work as well for JLB. He goes out of his way to stay up for this. And so that's why I say he's a whore, but he's our whore. And so I do also really quickly have to share one more thing though.
Oh my God, I really got to tinkle. Let's go.
Yeah, nope, here one more thing. Just gotta find it right there. Already up on our shop from last week. I am a fluffy tortilla. Because I mentioned chalupas are just fluffy tortillas.
It's valid. It's a valid point though.
It's a fluffy tortilla. So you can get that shirt now. If you want it, I guess. Still waiting on your shirt for the
Yeah, I totally didn't do anything yet, but I did win the bet.
You did win the bet.
Although I said Dewdrop was going to win, but the bet Baszler didn't even. The bet was more on Baszler.
The bet was more about whether Baszler beat Dewdrop, not whether Dewdrop won the full thing. So.
Exactly. So,
but anyways,
well, I mean, thank God I didn't do it. He wouldn't have showed up today. So,
yeah. It's okay. Once you design it, it'll take a while for him to actually get the shirt anyways. So.
Exactly. So,
but anyways, if you joined us for the live stream or you're joining us later, thank you. Make sure to click like, share, subscribe to the podcast. Link is in the doobly-doos for all of that information. All of that down there. Our podcast, any place you can find it there. Our social medias, our Twitter, Twitch. No, not Twitch yet. I might actually start streaming this on Twitch. Who knows?
Oh, why not?
Our merch store and our Patreon are all down there.
How many places are you sharing it right now? Facebook.
Right now, it's just Facebook and YouTube.
Okay, yeah, so might as well add the Twitch.
The only reason I haven't done Twitch yet, and it's really a silly reason, is Twitch. Twitch doesn't like not being the exclusive host. And so at standard level, they don't have a problem with it. But if you get to affiliate level, they require you to only stream to Twitch and then rebroadcast later, but live streaming just to Twitch. And I don't know if I want to, and I could turn down affiliate level if we get to that level on Twitch, but
I mean, yeah, we'll worry about that when it comes. For now,
more I'm like,
on our faces.
But here's the deal: Twitch isn't really good at recommendation, right? So if someone doesn't specifically go to your Twitch stream, it's really hard to find it. And if they're already specifically going someplace, they might as well just go to YouTube where it's already that. So I don't know. I debate back and forth. But anyways, all of our social medias are in the doobly-doos down below.
Mm-hmm.
You can follow me on pretty much any social media at Raw and Order WBU, except on Facebook, where it's at Pissant Podcast. Long, stupid story behind that, but that's what it is. You can follow JLB at
JLB420 is on Twitter. At Real Talk Radio is the brand, though, at Real Talk Radio 8. Anchor.fm/RTR for where all the podcasts are, the Spotify's, Apple's, Stitchers, Tidal, I think I'm on now. So it's all there. And on Facebook, it's at Real Talk Radio, technically. So, or RTR, technically. So, check me out there, and I'll have all my other social medias, whatever you prefer. You can definitely watch that. We're still doing our Dark Side of the Ring recaps there, and hopefully I will do more stuff because there's a lot more stuff. I'll be doing a Dune review, which won't be great if you're a Dune fan because it was really bad and I didn't like it. So for if you want to hear more, if you want to hear more about that.
We're gonna fight. We're gonna fight about this.
You watched it? You watched the new one?
Yeah, watched it today. Yeah.
Yeah, you liked it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes one of us.
Loved it.
Loved it.
Okay. Big Dune fan though.
Okay. Well, that's it. I'm not a big Dune fan. I didn't read the book. I didn't watch the original. I came in it like that.
Don't watch the original if you want to enjoy anything. The original one's like a 2.5 hour long acid trip. It's
but that's David Lynch though. David Lynch is
exactly
that's what he does.
Don't watch it.
If just a little small thing, I did enjoy everything but the story. I enjoyed the music. I enjoyed the camera work. I enjoyed the effects. All that I thought was really good. I just didn't like how the story came about and how they tried to, I don't know. I just wasn't a fan of, I found there was no chemistry. I didn't like it. It didn't bring me in. I wasn't invested.
I will say this, Dune is some serious sci-fi. And I mean this from this standpoint, right? You've got fluff sci-fi that you can watch on TV and
what do you call Star Wars?
Star Wars is fantasy.
Okay.
Here's the deal. I've always said this because I'm one of those people. We're going off on a weird tangent. I'm one of those people who I am a Star Wars and a Star Trek fan, and people go, "Oh, how can you like them both?" I'm like, because here's the deal: Star Trek is science fiction. Star Wars is science fantasy.
Okay.
And people go, what do you mean? Science fiction is a fictional future of potentially Earth, maybe something else. That's fine. But a future where technology is the centerpiece of the story, right? Mm-hmm. So for Star Trek, we've developed to a point that we've got the technology to travel to all sorts of different planets and explore brave new worlds. And technology is the centerpiece of the thing, and everything else is world building and all that stuff. Star Wars, though, at its root, technology isn't important to Star Wars,
right?
At its root, it's a sword and sorcery.
Mm-hmm.
It's a knight in shining armor has to save the damsel in distress from the evil wizard who has magic powers, and he has to fight him with a sword, right? It's you got to slay the dragon. It's a fantasy story set in a science setting, right?
Okay, science fiction.
Dune,
Okay.
however, is really hardcore science fiction. It's very much science fiction. It takes place in the future of Earth. The movies don't always make that 100% clear, but this is the distant future of Earth that it takes place on, right?
Right.
Technology is inherent to the storyline. The technology of how they travel the planets, how it's tied to the spice trade, how the planet of Arrakis is so important to the travel of the world and everything. How the technology of the still suits allow people to survive in the desert. The technology of the shields that the people wear for battle that protects them in battle also attracts the sandworm. It's some real hardcore sci-fi shit.
Okay.
And it can be real. And here's the deal. This is why it's a hard movie to film, because this storyline that you watched in this
was based off the book.
It's based off the book, but it's only a third of the book.
Right. Yeah.
Right? If even parts. A third. If it's even really a full third. It's not the full story.
How many pages is the book?
The book's like this thick.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
I have it downstairs. If I knew we were going to talk about this, I'd have it
next
in
time.
Here.
Yeah.
But it's a thick book. And here's the deal. The story of Dune, Frank Herbert's story of Dune, I want to say he wrote 6 books himself before he died. I think he had a 7th book almost done, and then he died. But in the 6 books that he wrote himself, the story encompasses like 30,000 years.
Oh, Jesus. Okay.
And events that took place in book 1 affect events in the end of the, like, butterfly effect things for 30,000 years.
See, if they would have made it like a butterfly effect kind of movie, I would have been down.
But so here, like I said, here's why it's so tough to film. And it's really tough to film only a third of a story and make it make sense. There are things that I didn't like about it as much. Denis Villeneuve, however you pronounce his name, I probably butchered it. Villeneuve, is a phenomenal director. I loved a lot of the other things. Blade Runner 2049.
It's Quebecois.
I loved some of his other movies. I really do. I like Oscar Isaac. I like Jason Momoa. The actors in this. Timothée Chalamet is about my only, and I don't want to say sticking point because I thought he was a good actor, but I had a thought about 20 or 30 minutes into the movie that then haunted me the rest of the movie. If you want to have fun, rewatch some of Dune with this thought in your mind. Timothée Chalamet delivers his lines like a young Nicolas Cage.
Oh no, why would you do this to me?
And once you have that in your mind, it's hard to watch it again because now you can just see Nicolas Cage doing it. And then now that you know this, knowing that Timothée Chalamet is currently right now filming a prequel to Willy Wonka.
Oh, nice.
Where he plays a young Willy Wonka. And it's Gene Wilder's Willy Wonka, if I'm correct. Like, if you look at the stuff, it's not the Johnny Depp weird Willy Wonka. But now think how Nicolas Cage would be as Willy Wonka, and it's going to ruin things for you. Anyways,
you've done it. You made me hate Dune more. That's
no. But here's the deal: is it might make it more enjoyable if you didn't.
Maybe,
like it.
Yeah. I mean,
but again, it's some hardcore science fiction, and it's not for everybody.
For sure.
I do know you're probably going to be in the minority. It's getting really good reviews, and it led the box office this weekend.
Well, there was nothing else. What else was this week?
Halloween movies.
Halloween
movies.
Halloween Kills was trash.
It doesn't matter. You can put out a trash movie, a trash horror movie, and it will still win the box office in Halloween month. And
That's
I'm
right.
not even talking specifically. I mean, they could have put out fucking
Saw 22.
Saw 22 or Midsummer 2 or whatever, and it normally would have killed the box office. And for Dune to come out and kill the box office this week is a big deal. But it's really hard for any movie to be a third of the story and still make sense and still be fun. If you want something, if you want to try to give Dune another shot, as in Dune the storyline, not Dune the movie, I recommend you take some time and try to find. Sci-Fi Channel did a mini series of Dune back in the early 2000s.
Okay.
It was a 3-part miniseries for the first book, and then they did a sequel one a few years later, called Children of Dune. In no way, here's the deal. This movie reminded me in some ways of it, but at the same point, obviously way lower budget because it was a Sci-Fi Channel movie or miniseries rather than a big budget Hollywood movie. But it Alec Newman played Leto. William Hurt played Leto. Alec Newman played Paul. Anyways,
I'll check it out. I mean, look, no guarantees. You are a hardcore sci-fi guy, though, so
but
that is your bag.
Yeah. In the end, here's the deal. I've read all of the Frank Herbert Dune books, so it is up my alley. I stopped reading when his son took over because. So long story, Frank Herbert died. His son later found a bunch of his manuscripts and teamed up with Kevin J. Anderson to try to finish the stories. And they don't feel right. They don't feel the same. But here's the deal. When you know the backstory for a few things, without Dune, there would be no Star Wars. I want to be very clear on that. Without Dune, there would be no Star Wars.
But didn't Dune come out in 1984? But I guess the books came out way before.
The books were written in the 1960s.
Okay.
But even more than that, you find the original script for Star Wars, right? You know, in the Dune movie, the women, the Bene Gesserits were the women controlling thing, all that stuff, right? The name of the Jedi were the Bene Jedi in the original Star Wars scripts.
Okay.
Exactly from Dune. The Sarlacc pit in Return of the Jedi was
it's Frank Herbert, right?
Frank Herbert, yes.
Does 800 pages make sense?
That's about right.
Okay, nice. I'll get it on my Kindle.
Yeah. It's a so you get to the brass tacks of it. You've got a young boy on a desert planet who's destined to who has great destiny in a war between multiple.
Did Steven Spielberg ever mention that though?
I think
George Lucas rather.
George Lucas. I think it went to a lawsuit, and then got settled out of court. But here's the deal.
That should be interesting.
George Lucas admitted that he was influenced by Dune.
Okay.
Yeah, you could. This isn't secret history at all.
It isn't. Okay.
You know, if you go Star Wars Dune, the first thing that comes up is Star Wars Dune ripoff. And the top one is a Nerdist article. Everything Star Wars borrowed from Dune. Tatooine is just like Arrakis. Moisture farmers is just like dew collectors. The sand crawlers or the Sarlacc sandworm. Spice. That's a thing in Star Wars is the drug spice, which is the central piece of Dune is spice. The Empire and the Imperium. Princess Leia is directly taken from Princess Aaliyah, who isn't in this movie, but will show up in later movies along with they do. The Force and the Voice, the Weirding Ways. Han Solo was directly based on Duncan, Idaho. Bene Gesserit and the Jedi,
I'll-
Bene Jedi. And
I'll
so,
Google
anyways,
it. I'll Google it. Let's go because I got a piece
anyways,
still.
yes. In the end, I will let you not like it. I will just fight you on it. That's all I'm saying.
No, that's fair, and I'm even down to do a little. I'll rewatch it at some point, and when I do, I'll even try to maybe read a little bit of the book to get a little backstory too. Maybe that would help me out. I like to give things a chance. I'm not just about shitting on things
That's
and
what-
all that. So,
Again, if you get a chance to try to find the
miniseries there.
from
It was just called Dune the TV show, or
it's called, I think, Frank Herbert's Dune.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try to look for it.
Let's see, when did it come out? Frank Herbert's Dune, 2000. 3 episodes. They're long. I think all told, it's about 4 hours between three. But
Three
it's
episodes.
3 episodes because it was a mini series.
Okay.
And so you can watch it over time. Again, not as high a budget, but it's fairly true to the story. And having watched this, you'll understand the storyline a little bit better and get some things. There were some things that this movie changed from the book and that the original miniseries had better.
What's Dune World? That came out in 21 though, so it's probably some stupid.
That's I think a Dune ripoff, to be perfectly honest. I was looking up
Dune the miniseries. Found it.
Yep.
Jesus, that's big. Okay, cool.
But anyways, we will wrap things up. If you stayed through this wrap up, give yourself a cookie because we went way off script on this. This does bring me on a podcast.
Oh, there's an audiobook.
I'm sure there's an audiobook, yeah. This does bring up something I pitched to DA Fabe at one point, that we need to start a off-duty episode where we don't talk about wrestling, we talk about other shit.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Off the clock. But anyways, but we will go ahead and wrap things up, close the book on the wrestling booking unit. Thank you all for listening. We will see you soon.